Get out, you leech. My father's words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. I stood in the doorway of the house I'd been paying for since I was 21, holding the groceries I'd just bought with my money, staring at the man who'd just called me a parasite. You were just our backup plan, he continued, his voice dripping with contempt. And frankly, we don't need you anymore. Trevor's business is finally taking off. Time for you to find your own place. Trevor. My younger brother who'd started 6 businesses in 5 years, all funded by my salary, all spectacular failures until this latest venture, a crypto trading platform that he claimed was about to explode. My parents had been singing his praises for weeks, how he was a genius, a visionary, the future of the family. I set the groceries down on the counter, $300 worth of food that would apparently be my last contribution to the household I'd been sustaining for 7 years. You want me to leave? I asked calmly, pulling out my phone. Tonight, my mother chimed in from the living room, not even looking up from where she was online shopping with the credit card I paid off every month. Trevor needs your room for his office. A successful businessman needs space to work. And you can leave the car keys, Dad added. That's technically the family car since you bought it while living here. The family car. The 2019 Honda Accord I purchased with my own money, registered in my name, insured by me. But in their minds, everything I'd earned while living under their roof belonged to them. I smiled, actually smiled, because they had no idea what was coming next. Okay, I said simply. I'll pack my things. My father looked surprised at my lack of resistance. Good, finally showing some maturity. I went to my room, soon to be Trevor's office, and began packing. As I folded clothes into my suitcase, I made a series of phone calls, my voice low and professional. Yes, I'd like to cancel the automatic payment. Effective immediately, no forwarding arrangement needed. One by one, I called them all. Electric company, gas, water, internet, the mortgage company, the car insurance for both family vehicles, my mother's credit cards, my father's golf club membership, Trevor's gym. Every single bill that had been automatically deducted from my account for 7 years. 7 years. Since I graduated college and landed my job as a software engineer at a tech startup. My parents had guilt-tripped me into staying home to save money, but really, I'd become their personal ATM. Every raise I got meant they could spend more. Every bonus went to Trevor's latest business venture or my mother's shopping addiction or my father's golf trips. I paid approximately $400,000 over those 7 years. Rent, bills, groceries, insurance, Trevor's business ventures, my sister Diane's wedding, my parents' anniversary cruise, the new roof, the kitchen remodel. Everything. What are you smiling about? Trevor appeared in my doorway smirking. At 26, he still dressed like a college frat boy, despite insisting he was a serial entrepreneur. Just thinking about new beginnings, I said, carefully packing my laptop and the backup drives containing all my personal files and freelance work. Yeah, well, don't take anything that belongs to the family, he said. Mom said the TV in here stays. And the desk, and definitely the gaming computer. The gaming computer I built myself with $3,000 of my own money. Of course, I said. Wouldn't want to take family property. But I'd already removed the graphics card, the RAM, and the solid-state drive. The shell I was leaving behind was worth maybe $200. Trevor wouldn't notice until he tried to use it. My sister Diane arrived as I was carrying my second suitcase downstairs. She was the neutral one, the middle child who'd married rich and moved out 3 years ago. Maya, this is ridiculous, he said. Where are you even going to go? I have a place, I said. I didn't tell her about the apartment I'd secretly leased 2 months ago when I'd seen this coming, or the promotion I'd received that they didn't know about, senior software architect with a salary increase of $50,000 a year. Or the freelance clients I've been building up, bringing in an extra $5,000 a month. You're being dramatic, my mother said, finally looking up from her phone. Just apologize to your father and we can forget this happened. Apologize for what? I asked. For paying your bills for 7 years. For being ungrateful, she snapped. We gave you a roof over your head. A roof I paid for, in a house I've been paying the mortgage on since 2016. Details. My father dismissed. The point is, you've been living here rent-free. Rent-free? I laughed. I have every bank statement, Dad. Every payment. Would you like me to total it up? Get out, he said, his face reddening. And don't come crying back when you realize how hard the real world is. The real world. As if I hadn't been living in it, supporting 4 adults while they played house with my money. I loaded my things into an Uber. They were right about one thing: I was leaving the car. Not because it was theirs, but because I'd already bought myself a new Tesla that was waiting at my apartment. Let them figure out how to pay for the insurance and payments on a car they couldn't legally drive. As the Uber pulled away, I sent one final text to the family group chat. As requested, I've removed myself from the household. I've also removed myself from all financial obligations. Best of luck with Trevor's new business. Then I muted the conversation. The first call came exactly 6 hours later, at 11 p.m. It was my mother, panic in her voice. Maya, the power just shut off. Did you forget to pay the bill? No, I said calmly. I canceled the automatic payment. It's not my bill anymore. But how do we pay it? The same way everyone else does. You log into the power company website and pay it. We don't have the login information. Then you'll need to call them and set up your own account. This is ridiculous. You can't just. I hung up. The next morning, the texts started rolling in. Dad, the mortgage company called. They say the payment was reversed. Fix this immediately. Mom, my credit card was declined at Nordstrom. This is embarrassing and unacceptable. Trevor. Yo, the internet's off. Can't run my business without internet. Stop being petty. Diane, Mom and Dad are freaking out. Can't you just pay the bills for this month while they figure things out? I responded to Diane only. They have Trevor's successful business income now. I'm sure they'll be fine. The truth came out by day 3. Trevor's successful crypto platform had exactly 12 users and had made a grand total of $340 in revenue. The investors he'd been bragging about were actually just other crypto bros on Discord who promised to promote his platform in exchange for free tokens. My father called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer, but I did listen to the voicemail he left. Maya, this is insane. We have $42 in a checking account. The mortgage is past due. The car insurance lapsed. Your mother's credit cards are all maxed out. We need you to come back. We may have been hasty. You're not a leech. You're family. Family helps each other. Family helps each other. Where was that sentiment when I was working 60-hour weeks to support them? Where was that when I missed my college reunion because I had to pay for Trevor's latest business failure? Where was that when I couldn't afford to go on vacation for 5 years because every penny went to maintaining their lifestyle? On day 5, Diane called from her own number. They're getting eviction notices, she said. The mortgage is 3 months behind. 3 months? I was genuinely surprised. I paid it 2 weeks ago. Apparently Dad's been taking the mortgage money and putting it into Trevor's business. He assumed you'd always catch it up. So not only had they been spending my money, they'd been stealing it too. That's fraud, I said. He's been taking money I gave him for the mortgage and using it for something else. Maya, please, they're desperate. Dad's already asked me and Robert for money, but we just bought the vacation house. We don't have liquidity right now. The vacation house, their third property. But they didn't have liquidity to help the parents who were about to be homeless. I can't help them, I said. I'm just a leech, remember? 2 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was my father calling from a friend's phone. Maya, he said, his voice broken. We're staying with Trevor's friend, sleeping on an air mattress. Your mother has to take the bus to work. This is humiliating. I'm sorry to hear that, I said neutrally. We need your help. I'm sorry for what I said. You weren't a leech. You were the one holding everything together. Please come back. I have my own apartment now, Dad, my own life. Then at least help us get back on our feet. A loan, we'll pay you back. Like Trevor paid back the $80,000 I invested in his businesses. Silence. That was different. That was investment in the family future. And how's that future looking now? He hung up. 3 months after I moved out, I ran into my mother at a grocery store. She was in the generic section, counting coupons. The woman who used to spend $500 on a single shopping trip without blinking was now buying store-brand cereal. Maya, she said, her voice small. You look good. I did look good. Living without the constant stress of supporting four adults had done wonders for my health. I'd started working out, sleeping better, even dating someone, things I'd never had time or money for before. Thanks, I said. How are things? We're managing. Trevor got a job at Best Buy. Your father's working at the golf club he used to be a member at. I've taken a second job. That must be hard, I said, and I meant it. Not with satisfaction, but with genuine sympathy. They were in their late 50s, starting over because they'd never learned to manage their own lives. We were terrible to you, she said suddenly, tears in her eyes. We treated you like an ATM, not a daughter, and when Trevor showed a tiny bit of success, we threw you away. Yes, I said simply. You did. Is there any chance you could forgive us? Not move back, not pay our bills, just be our daughter again. I thought about it for a long moment. Maybe someday, I said. But not today. You need to learn to stand on your own feet first. All of you. She nodded, wiping her tears. I understand. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my investment app. The startup I'd been able to invest in with the money I was no longer spending on my family had just gone public. My $50,000 investment was now worth $400,000, the exact amount I'd spent supporting them over 7 years. I sat in my Tesla, looking at the number on my screen, and laughed. Then I did something I'd never been able to do before. I donated $10,000 to a charity that helped young adults escape financial abuse from their families. The dedication line read, "For all the backup plans to become their own success stories." 6 months later, I got a wedding invitation from Diane. At the bottom, in her handwriting, "Mom, Dad, and Trevor are invited but will be seated separately from you if you choose to come." I marked "will attend" and sent it back. At the wedding, my father approached me during the reception. He looked older, tired, but also somehow more genuine than I'd ever seen him. "Your mother told me about the grocery store," he said. "About what you said. You were right. We needed to learn to stand on our own feet." "And have you?" I asked. "We're trying. It's hard, but Trevor's actually keeping a job for once. Your mother and I are in counseling, where we're facing what we did to you." "That's good," I said. "I know I have no right to ask," he said, "but I'm proud of you. The real you, not the ATM we turned you into. The daughter we should have seen all along." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Maybe," he said hesitantly, "maybe we could have coffee sometime. No requests, no money talk, just coffee." "Maybe," I said. "Call me in a few months. We'll see." As I watched him walk back to his table, the regular guest table, not the family section, I realized something. They called me their backup plan, but they'd gotten it backward. I was never the backup plan. I was the only plan that had ever actually worked. And now finally, I was nobody's plan but my own.
The night Charlotte called me the maid, I was standing in my mother's kitchen with a family pack of chicken thighs, sweating through the plastic on my forearm. I'm Ruby Gomez. I'm 29. I do medical billing for an orthopedic practice on the north side of San Antonio. Numbers calm me down. I moved back into my dad's house 8 months ago, the week after we buried my mom, and I turned the chaos into line items. My dad is Harvey, 60, good-hearted, and allergic to conflict. Charlotte Mills is his 54-year-old girlfriend who moved in 2 weeks ago with a trunk full of candles and a lot of opinions. My best friend, Stella Reyes, 30, lives 10 minutes away and keeps an extra blanket on her couch for me like it's policy. The kitchen still smelled faintly like my mom's vanilla, even though Charlotte had swapped the soap for something called sea salt and driftwood. I had my routine. I used coupons, I tracked copays, I paid the $86 internet, the $49 to Andy Ross for mowing, the $60 trash bill when it slid past due, and I covered groceries when Dad's debit card balked at the register. I set reminders so he'd remember his blood pressure pills. I didn't make a big deal of it. Paperwork is how I love people. "Finally," Charlotte said, flicking a lighter at a pillar candle like a hostess on a TV show. She leaned against the island and smiled at my dad. "Our maid is here." It wasn't a joke, not the way she said it, flat and satisfied, looking right at me and then past me. My dad stood behind her, hands shoved into the pockets of his jeans. He looked down at the grout line between tiles, like it had something to tell him. I slid the chicken into the fridge and shut the door. The rubber seal stuck for a second, a quiet little whoosh. I took a breath that did not shake. "I'm not your maid," I said, calm, to no one in particular. Charlotte's smile widened in a way that read as amusement and victory. "Relax," she said. "You know I mean it affectionately. You like to help." What I like is control over the mess in bills, the mess in grief. I'd been doing that since March when I put the house accounts on autopay, so my dad didn't have to watch due dates like a hawk. The internet got paid on the 15th. Andy's lawn invoice hit on the 1st. Trash was the wild card. Groceries, I never set a rule for. Those I handled by feel. My dad cleared his throat. "Kiddo," he said, eyes still on the floor, like the word might stand in for a spine. Charlotte wasn't done. "And since you're here," she added, her tone brightening for the benefit of the open blinds and whoever might be walking by, "could you wipe down the patio table? The neighbors see everything." My hands moved before my head did. I pulled my duffel from the pantry where I'd tucked it weeks ago among paper towels and a bulk pack of napkins. Jeans, scrub bottoms, 2 t-shirts, toiletries. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't say anything about how my mother labeled the spices and how the labels were now peeling up at the corners. I looked at the calendar I'd printed and taped to the side of the fridge, his pills marked with little dots, and I peeled it off in one slow motion. Charlotte watched me with her arms crossed. "Are you seriously being dramatic over a word?" she asked. I set my spare key on the counter next to the fruit bowl. I made sure it wasn't under anything. The metal glinted under the pendant light. I wanted her to see it. I wanted my dad to see it too. "Ruby," he said, like a question and a plea. "I've got a shift early," I said. It wasn't a lie. I could always pick up hours. My voice was even. "I'll text you if any labs come in that need signatures." "We can talk about this," he said, but his voice trailed off. That's what he does. He waits for storms to die out on their own. Charlotte rolled her eyes. "Good grief," she muttered. "You're making a scene. This is exactly why the house needs order." I zipped the duffel and slung it over my shoulder. I took the pack of chicken back out, because I had paid for it, and because the idea of her cooking it on my mother's pans made something inside me go cold. I tucked the meat under my arm, picked up my phone, and walked to the door. On the way out, I texted Stella. "Couch free?" "Always," she shot back before I even got to my car. The early fall air felt like a relief. A sprinkler hissed somewhere down the block, hitting concrete in a rhythmic slap. The HOA had rules about watering days. I knew them better than most because I'd read the packet when it landed in our mailbox and added the fines to my mental list of things Dad didn't need to think about. I loaded the duffel into my trunk, set the chicken on the passenger seat, and sat for a second with the engine off. Inside the house, Charlotte's voice carried, sharp, then muffled, then my dad's lower rumble, indecipherable. I let it fade. I turned the key and pulled away. As I reached the stop sign at the end of our street, my phone buzzed. It was my dad. I didn't pick up. I looked at the spare key, bright in my mind where I'd left it on the counter, and kept driving. In the car, I balanced the chicken on the passenger seat, opened the internet provider's app, and took my card off autopay. Manage payments. Edit, remove. It asked me twice if I was sure. I was. The account was in my name. The bill was due this weekend. No card, no payment. I did the same for the lawn guy. Andy Ross, $49 on the 1st, sat in my email with a standing invoice link. I clicked update payment, deleted my card, and typed a quick note. Hi, Andy. Please contact Harvey for future billing. I'm stepping back. I added my dad's phone number because Andy had always texted me. Trash was messier. The city's portal still had my visa saved. I cleared it and changed the email on file to my dad's. If they mailed a paper notice, it would land in his hands instead of mine. Then I opened Google Calendar. I had a shared pills calendar with reminders at breakfast and bedtime. I toggled off sharing. The little blue heads next to my dad's email disappeared. I archived the printed version I'd peeled off his fridge by sliding it into the side pocket of my duffel. I wasn't going to be in that house straightening magnets and notes anymore. I typed a message to my dad and read it twice before hitting send. Return the key. I won't be entering the house. If you need official forms signed, call me and I'll handle them. For anything I pay, I'll need reimbursement upfront first. I'll help set things in your name if you want. I didn't send one to Charlotte. Stella's place is 10 minutes from my dad's if you hit the lights right. She buzzed me in on the first ring, opened the door in socks, and took the chicken without comment. She slid it into her fridge, then started the kettle like this was our practice drill. Coffee at night? I asked, dropping my duffel next to her couch. Defensive strategy, she said. You look like you left a battlefield. I sank onto the pullout and kicked off my shoes. She called me the maid. Stella's eyebrows lifted, but she didn't say I told you so. She handed me a mug and a throw blanket. Phone down, she said. I turned it face down on the claw mark on her coffee table. It buzzed. Once, then again, and I didn't flip it. I could feel the shape of my dad's name behind the glass. I let it be. Work? She asked. I pulled my laptop out and logged into the clinic scheduling app. I'd cut my hours back after Mom died, so I could drive Dad to appointments and meet delivery windows. There were open morning slots next week and a full day Friday. I clicked to claim them and emailed Leah, my manager, to ask for full time through the end of the month. Family situation changed, I wrote, available to cover. She responded 5 minutes later with a thumbs up and a, we've got you. Stella brought over a half carton of takeout lo mein and 2 forks. Eat, she said, then tell me what you need. I took my card off everything, I said between bites. Internet, lawn, trash. I told Andy to call my dad. I told my dad I'm not going back in the house. Good, she said. She wasn't one for speeches. She put her feet under her on the chair and watched me in that steady way she has when she's not going to rescue me from my own decisions. My phone buzzed again. I glanced. A text from Dad. Not long. Just my name. The question mark. Then nothing. No paragraphs. That made it worse and better at the same time. You can crash here as long as you need, Stella said. But I'm waking you up at 7 because I have a run, and you're drinking water before bed. I have the chicken, I said. We can cook it tomorrow. We'll make tacos, she said. We'll make a list. I rinsed my mug and set it in her sink. In her living room, the pullout creaked like a memory. I stretched out and tucked the blanket under my feet. Through the wall, someone's TV murmured. The building always came alive on Sundays when the games were on. You could hear cheers and groans through the hallway. I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb. I set one alarm for morning and put it face down again. I could picture the internet app screen in my mind. No payment method saved. I could picture my dad standing in the kitchen, seeing the key on the counter, seeing the empty corner where the calendar had been. Stella clicked off the lamp. You did the right thing, she said in the dark. Now let the silence do something. Outside, a car door thumped. My phone buzzed one last time and stopped. I stared at the ceiling until the street noise turned into a soft wash. Sunday's game was in 2 days. Kickoff hit like a switch in the building. Doors opened, voices rose. Someone down the hall whooped at a pregame segment. I cracked Stella's window for the breeze and the sound, because it was easier to listen to other people's noise than my own head. My phone lit up face down, buzzing against the wooden table. Then again, then a steady jitter. I flipped it over. First a text from my dad at 12:58. Internet out? Before I could lock the screen, another came in from an unknown number that resolved to Charlotte's contact. Why is the Wi-Fi not working? Then, TV black. Then my dad again. Ruby? I didn't answer. I slid the phone to the edge and watched the notifications stack in the preview bar. 12 missed calls climbed to 13. I turned on Do Not Disturb and set it back down. Stella set a bowl of chips next to me and a jar of salsa that said mild in friendly letters. She watched my face and didn't ask for the play-by-play. It's Sunday, I said. He has people over. She nodded. And the internet you paid for is not. I opened the provider's app just to look. The account screen loaded with a yellow banner. Payment required to resume service. Auto-pay attempt failed. The due date was today. The cycle always landed mid-month. There was no card on file. A button offered add payment method. I closed it. The text kept coming in, collected like missed landings. Charlotte started a group thread with my dad and me that I had never asked to be in. So ungrateful, she wrote. Our maid took her toys. My face went hot, then cold. I put the phone down like it was something that might burn the table and got up to open the window a little more. Somewhere a commentator stretched a name out into a long vowel. Laughter rose and fell. Eat, Stella said, pushing the chips toward me. Use your jaw on something else. I took one, then another. The salt grounded me. In the kitchen, the pan from last night's tacos dried in the rack, a smear of orange grease catching the light. We'd cooked the chicken with cumin and limes and gone to bed smelling like a family that had just fed itself. The phone buzzed once. Voicemail. I didn't hit the little red dot. I let it sit for a minute, and then listened. Ruby, my dad said, voice low, the word like he had to work to pull it up. Can you just fix it? 3 seconds. Click. I stared at the wall while the window screen hummed with wind. Fix it used to mean me getting on a chat with the provider, authorizing a payment, restarting the modem, carrying the mental load. Fix it had turned into a reflex for both of us. I wiped my palms on my jeans and didn't call back. Instead, I sent one text to my dad, not to the group thread. I kept it short. I can help you put it in your name tomorrow, or you can call them now and add your card. I won't re-add mine. The bubble stayed gray. No dots. In the group thread, Charlotte fired off another. This is childish. People are here. I set the phone face down again. Stella handed me a glass of water. You don't have to justify, she said. He can read the bill. He can call. You told him. I nodded. My hands were steady. That was new. Around 2, the building went quiet. That lull between the first drive and the second quarter when everybody eats. I did laundry in Stella's hall machine, 2 quarters short, so I Venmo'd her roommate for change, and folded on the couch. I put my mom's calendar printout in the bottom of my duffel with my scrubs and the t-shirt from the clinic 5K. I didn't have to look at the little dots for pills. That job was not mine, if the price was being called staff in the house where I grew up. By late afternoon, Do Not Disturb had a little stack of numbers in the corner. 12 missed calls, then 13. Then it stopped. The building roared once, then fell into polite groans, and then music swelled through the plaster when the game ended, and commercials came louder than people wanted to talk. At 5, I took a short walk around the block to let the air unstick from my skin. The curbs were neat except for our old street, where I knew the dandelions had started pushing up along the sidewalk because Andy hadn't been by in a week. I had Andy's number saved under A, so I would see it first. I'd already told him to bill Harvey, That was done. Back upstairs, I heated taco leftovers and ate at the counter while Stella scrolled for dessert recipes she wasn't going to make. My phone hummed again. Not a call this time, but a picture from my dad. The modem lights, all amber, with the caption just question marks. I didn't answer. Another moment, then silence. When night dropped, I turned the phone off entirely. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt like air after a storm, charged and clean. I set my alarm for work in the morning and laid out scrubs, badge, and flats in a neat little row. On Monday, before lunch, a bright envelope from the HOA would hit my dad's mailbox with a photo of yellowheads in our yard and a $75 fine printed in black. Silence had started its work. The rest was going to be bills and names on accounts and who signed what. Monday at lunch, between claims, my dad texted me a photo of a neon envelope on the kitchen counter. The HOA logo sat in the corner like a stamp. Open this. What is it? I zoomed the next photo until the words blurred. Notice of violation. A date. A snapshot of our front yard with bright yellow heads along the sidewalk. $75 fine assessed. Remedy within 5 days. Contact Christian Hunt, property manager. Call Andy to mow or borrow a mower today, I wrote back. The HOA wants it done this week. They'll add fines if it sits. I can send you Andy's number. He replied with a thumbs up emoji, then nothing. I sent Andy's contact anyway. Andy texted me a minute later. Got your note. I'll reach out to Harvey. I told him thanks and turned back to my screen where a patient named McAllister had 2 duplicate charges. After work, Stella had a pasta bake in the oven and a stack of cheap manila folders on the table. Pick a color, she said, like this was school supplies and not my life. I slid bank statements out of my laptop and printed a list. Internet, 86 month, lawn 49 month, trash can $60 when past due, co-pays varied, groceries overflow mixed in. I opened my banking app and scrolled 6 months back to March, when we put Mom's photo on the mantle and I started laying rails under the house. It felt clinical. Dates, amounts, confirmation numbers. I wrote totals in neat pen at the top of a page and tucked receipts I had into a folder. Tuesday was quiet. I worked a full day, took a late lunch to help a walk-in with a referral, and didn't check my phone except to confirm that my manager had me on for Friday. In the evening, I called my grandpa to ask about a recipe for arroz he used to make, and didn't mention Charlotte, didn't mention the envelope. Wednesday at 6:30 a.m., my dad called. I let it go to voicemail, then listened while I pulled on scrubs. Ruby. They didn't pick up the trash. I could hear the indignation, like the truck had made a mistake and he was about to flag it back. I called him back. Did you get an email from the city? There was a past due balance. I don't... He stopped. Paper rustled. There's something about $60 here from last month. Were you... I was paying it when it slipped, I said. Trash is every quarter. If it goes past due, they skip a pickup. Silence. Then, softer, I didn't know you were paying all that. That was the point, I said, keeping my voice even, so you didn't have to think about it while you were dealing with everything else. I didn't add that everything else now included a woman who called me the maid. He cleared his throat. Can you just re-add your card? Just this month. I'll pay you back. No, I said. One word, steady. If you want help, we can meet somewhere public. You Zelle me first and we put everything, internet, lawn, trash, in your name. I'm not putting my card back on your house. He let out a breath like air from a tire. Okay. The game was a mess. Charlotte invited the guys and then the envelope. And now there's trash. Call the city, I said. They'll take a card over the phone. The number's on the notice. For the lawn, either mow today or have Andy come out. The HOA manager is Christian Hunt. if he calls you back. They'll give you a deadline. I got an email from a Christian, he said, with a picture of the, what do you call them, dandelions. Says Friday at 5 or another fine. That's him, I said. It's fixable. Just, you fix it. He made a small sound that could have been a yes. Then he said, too quick, Charlotte says you're making a point. She says this is about attention. My phone vibrated with a new notification even as he said her name. A voice message from Charlotte. I didn't press play. I'm not entering the house, I said. If you need official forms, text me. If you want me to set up accounts, we'll do it with your card, your name, in public. That's it. Right. He sounded tired. I'll call the city. We hung up. I put my phone on the counter and let the voice message sit. Stella came out, hair wet, and raised an eyebrow. I handed her the phone. She hit play and stuck it on speaker. Charlotte's voice filled the small kitchen. Ruby, this is embarrassing. You're acting like a child for a pat on the head. You've always been a charity case. Your father took you in, and now you want applause for doing chores. Grow up. Stella's mouth flattened. She hit stop, then delete. Nope, she said. I nodded. Agreed. At noon, my dad texted a screenshot of a payment confirmation from the city. Paid $60. Service resumes next pickup. Then a photo of the front yard, half mowed, the other half like a haircut paused mid-snip. He wrote, Andy coming by at 3. I answered with a thumbs up. I was not going to coach. He had a phone. He had a wallet. He had a manager's name and a lawn guy's number. At 4, my phone buzzed again. I expected another demand. Instead, it was a simple line from my dad. I'm sorry. Can we meet? I need to get this right. Thursday after lunch, I printed a lab requisition for my dad from the clinic portal and slid it into a blank envelope. He needed it to get blood drawn for his primary next week. I texted him before I left work. I can drop the lab order at 5. Porch only. I'm not coming inside. He typed back fast. Understood. Thank you. Traffic on 281 crawled like it always does at rush, slow enough that I could see the city fold into neighborhoods. I pulled onto our street and parked 2 houses down. The lawn out front was short, neat lines from Andy's mower, a white bag of clippings tied off near the side gate. The dandelions were gone. The mailbox flag was down. I carried the envelope up the walk. The front door opened before I got to the mat. Charlotte stood there with a wide smile that looked like a photograph, one hand on the knob, the other smoothing the front of her blouse. Oh, Ruby, she said in a tone meant for anyone within earshot. Come in. We were just making coffee. Porch drop-off, I said, holding the envelope up. For Dad. That's all. Her smile thinned. She stepped back and tilted her head like an invitation. Don't be silly. You live here. I don't, I said. I set the envelope on the small table by the door with the ceramic bowl that used to hold my mom's keys. I pointed at it. Lab order. He needs to bring it with his ID. Neighbors will think you're mad at us, she sang, eyes flicking to the street. I'm not interested in neighbors, I said. Her hand twitched toward my arm, not quite touching. The smile slipped all the way off. She leaned in, so the word wouldn't carry. Maid, she hissed, like she'd been holding it. I looked at her, then at the envelope, then at the topiary she'd bought and set by the step. Porch, I said, more to myself than to her, and took a step back. My dad's voice came from the hall. Ruby? He moved into the doorway behind her. He looked tired and more alert than I'd seen him in months. His eyes flicked to my hands, to the table, to my face. I've got it, he said, reaching past her for the envelope. He didn't ask me in. That counted for something. I'll text you, I said to him, and turned. Charlotte said something under her breath that I didn't catch, and then louder, brighter, "Thanks, honey," for the benefit of the cul-de-sac. I walked to my car and felt the hinge of the moment, the clean line of a boundary holding. I put the engine in gear and drove straight to Stella's. She had her dining table laid out like a project, manila folder, highlighter, my printouts from earlier in the week, and a small calculator with a missing 7 key, which still worked if you pressed it hard enough. "You did it?" she asked as I dropped my keys. "Porch," I said. He took the envelope. "Lawn's cut. Trash is paid. HOA will chill if the yard stays neat." "Good," she said. She slid the folder toward me. "Let's finish the totals." I sat and pulled up my bank on my laptop. We moved through month by month. Internet 86.6, April through September, 6 charges. Lawn 49s, 6 charges. Trash, 2 late payments at $60 each. Copays, 3 times $20, 1 at $45. Groceries, there wasn't a clean category for cart went over. So I added the times I transferred from my account after a debit declined and wrote grocery overflow with dates. Stella read the numbers out, and I wrote neat totals at the top of a single page, total covered, and below it, each line with a subtotal. I wasn't going to present it like a bill. I wanted the picture clear enough that there was no mystery about what I'd been carrying. My phone buzzed at 6. A text from my dad. "Tomorrow? Diner by the pharmacy?" I'll listen. The diner was our neutral ground. Bright lights, laminated menus, a waitress who called everyone sweetheart. I could picture the corner booth by the pie case. I typed back, "Tomorrow, 12:30. We'll do accounts in your name. Up front only." He wrote, "Okay." We kept working. I made a simple contact sheet for him. Internet, provider name, account number, customer service phone, lawn, Andy's number, trash, city utility line, HOA, Christian Hunt's email and the violation date, and fine. I printed it and slid it behind the receipts. "Are you going to put rules in writing?" Stella asked. "Terms," I said. The word surprised me coming out of my mouth. It felt right. Short, plain. She pushed her laptop toward me. "Type them." I typed 4 lines. "Upfront reimbursement before I pay anything. All accounts in your name, your card. No house entry for me unless invited and treated with basic respect. No triangulating with Charlotte. Talk to me directly." I added a 5th and then deleted it. No lectures, just facts. Stella watched me save and hit print. The small printer on her bookshelf chugged and spit the page out. I read it once, then slipped it into the front of the folder. "Looks like a plan," she said. "It's not a plan," I said. "It's the price." "Same thing," she said, wiping a smudge off the cover. She wrote House, Harvey, on the tab with a marker and handed it back. I put the folder in my tote with my badge and the little calculator. I laid my clinic ID on top so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. My phone stayed quiet. I felt the absence of noise like a clear lane. The diner would be tomorrow. Terms were going on the table. I took an early lunch and drove to the diner by the pharmacy, the one with sticky booths and pie under glass. I texted Leah, I might be 10 minutes over. She sent a thumbs up. I took the corner booth and set the manila folder on the vinyl, my clinic badge tucked into the front pocket so I wouldn't leave without it. My dad came in a few minutes later, squinting like the lights were bright. He sat, hands around the water glass, before the waitress even brought coffee. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. His voice was hoarse. "I'm sorry. For the other night. For all of it." I opened the folder. I didn't make a speech. I slid the top page to him. Internet, 86 month, APRSEP, 6 charges, dates and confirmation numbers printed. Lawn 49 month, 6 invoices paid. Trash, 2 past due payments, $60 each. Co-pays, 3 at $20, 1 at $45. Grocery overflow, 4 transfers when the cart went over, with dates. No totals in red, no dramatic underline. Just the facts. He stared at the page. I let him read. The waitress came and poured coffee. He thanked her and didn't look up. I didn't know it was this much, he said finally. I thought you were just helping with the internet. I kept it quiet so you didn't have to think about it, I said. But I can't do it and be called the maid in Mom's kitchen. He shut his eyes for a second. I'm sorry I stood there and let that happen. I nodded. I pulled out the 1-page contact sheet and slid it over. Here's everything. Provider names, account numbers, phone numbers, Andy's number, the city utilities line, Christian at the HOA. You can call and put every account in your name with your card. If you want my help, I will help. But we do it like this. I pulled the terms page from the pocket and placed it on top. 4 lines, plain. Upfront reimbursement before I pay anything. All accounts in your name with your card. I don't enter the house unless I'm invited and treated with basic respect. No triangulating with Charlotte. Talk to me directly. He read each line and put a big hand next to the paper like he was weighing it. Yes, he said, all of that. I can do that. Up front, I said. If I pick up a pharmacy refill, you Zelle me first. If I scan a form, you send a photo of your signature. I'm not chasing. He nodded again. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his wallet, more habit than anything, then set it back down like he realized this wasn't a bill I was handing him. The bell over the door rang. I didn't look up until a shadow fell across the table and a perfume I recognized as sea salt and driftwood hit my nose. Charlotte slid into the booth next to my dad like she'd been invited. Well, she said, all brightness, isn't this cozy? You could have told me you were meeting. My dad didn't move. He hadn't told me she was coming. His mouth twitched like he was going to say something and then thought better of it. Charlotte reached across the table for the folder like it was part of the silverware. Let me see what narrative we're spinning. I put my hand on the folder and kept it there. This is between me and Dad. Don't be dramatic, she said, laughter in the word like she was above everything. You've been acting like a martyr for doing chores. You're making lists? I like lists, I said. They keep things clear. She rolled her eyes and reached again. I didn't pull. I just opened my phone instead and angled the screen so my dad could see. Banking app, auto pays, the internet provider entry labeled canceled with the date, the lawn invoice link with my note to Andy forwarding him to Harvey, the city utilities profile where I'd removed my card and updated the email to his. These are the dates I removed my card, I said. Last Saturday for internet, Monday for trash. The lawn autopay was canceled Saturday. Those are the services that stopped because my card wasn't there. Charlotte leaned back like the screen offended her. Why are you showing me your bank? I'm showing Dad, I said. He leaned in, jaw working. He looked at the dates, then at the list of charges over the past 6 months. His eyes were glossy in a way that had nothing to do with tears. It was focus. He took a breath and looked at Charlotte. No more of the maid talk, he said. His voice wasn't loud. No more. She looked surprised, then amused, like he had told a small joke. We're really doing this here? Yes, he said. He slid the folder closer to himself, his hand covering the terms page like he was claiming it. He shifted in the booth and sat up straighter. We're going to fix it. She huffed and stared at me. You really think you can come in here and dictate terms? I already left the house, I said. These aren't demands. They're conditions for my help. The waitress came by with more coffee and looked at the 3 of us like she'd walked into a TV show. No one spoke until she moved on. My dad's jaw tightened. He pulled his wallet out again. on purpose this time, and set his card on the table in front of him like a marker. We'll use my card today. Sunday morning, my phone buzzed while I was pouring coffee in Stella's kitchen. Dad, can you flip it back on just for a few hours? Guy's coming at 2. No, I typed. I can help you set it up in your name with your card before noon, or you can call them yourself. I won't re-add mine. A minute. Then, come by. We'll set it up. I'll keep it civil. I put the manila folder in my tote and checked that the contact sheet was still clipped to the front. Stella handed me a banana and a look. Boundaries, she said. Terms, I said, and left. The lawn in front of the house was short, neat stripes. The HOA envelope was on the console inside, with a sticky note stuck to it in my dad's handwriting. Paid. A neighbor across the street hauled a cooler out of his garage and lifted a hand. I lifted mine back. My dad opened the door before I knocked. Thank you for coming, he said. He stepped back and let me in. We'll do the call at the table. Charlotte stood by the kitchen island with her mug like it was a prop. You can flip your little switch, can't you? She said. Just for the boys. It's not that deep. No, I said. We're setting up his account. His card. She rolled her eyes and let the word out like a reflex. Made. I picked up my tote. Then I'm leaving. My dad moved, quick for him. He turned to Charlotte. No, he said, steady. We agreed. Knock it off. Apologize. She blinked like he'd spoken another language. You're going to make me apologize in my own home because your daughter's pouting? He didn't raise his voice. Apologize or leave. We have to do this. She stared at him, then at me, a slow smile that didn't reach anything. Childish, she said. She grabbed her purse, clattered the mug into the sink on purpose, and walked past us. The door shut behind her a little too loud. Silence settled like a blanket. My dad exhaled. I'm sorry, he said. We're doing the account now. We sat at the dining table. He placed his wallet between us like a token. I put my phone on speaker and dialed the provider. We listened to a recorded voice talk about faster speeds, then to flute-heavy hold music that made the seconds obvious. A rep named Jasmine picked up and asked for the service address. I gave it. There's an account here that's suspended for non-payment, she said. That one is under my name, I said. We need to close it and open a new account for Harvey. Same address. Copy, she said. We can do a new account. I'll need a phone number and email. My dad read off his cell and his Gmail. Jasmine repeated them back. Okay, she said. I can activate with your existing modem. Do you see a sticker on the back with a number that starts with MAC? I nodded at my dad. He went to the den, unplugged the modem, brought it over, and squinted at the label. I slid my reading glasses toward him without comment. He read the MAC address carefully. Jasmine typed, Got it. The plan is $86 plus taxes and fees. You can add auto pay. Card name and number? My dad set his card on the table and read the numbers into the air. Expiration, security code, zip. All set, Jasmine said. I'm pushing a refresh to your modem. When the lights go back to green, you should be good. Anything else? No, I said. That's it. Thank you. We waited. The modem blinked like a small, nervous animal. Amber to green, then back, then green steady. In the den, the TV's home screen reloaded. My dad clicked to the app he uses for the stream. The pre-game panel popped up. Men in suits talking too fast. He let out a breath he'd been holding for a week. Okay, he said. Okay. There was a tap at the door. A neighbor with a tray of wings stuck his head in. We good? He asked, looking past me at the screen. We're good, my dad said. He looked at me. Do you want to stay? I'm going to go, I said. I stood and put my tote over my shoulder. I'm glad you got it set up. He nodded. I'll send you the confirmation, he said. And I meant what I said. No more of the name calling. I heard you, I said. I believed him more seeing the card on the table than hearing the words. On my way out, I passed the topiary by the step and the small table with the ceramic bowl. I didn't look inside it. I pulled the door closed and walked to my car while the TV got louder inside and the house filled with other people's noise. Back at Stella's, I put my phone on the counter and let the quiet bounce around. I answered a patient email about a misapplied deductible because it was simple and made sense. When the game kicked off, the building cheered in a way that made me smile without trying. At halftime, my dad texted a photo, a single page printed in grayscale on his old inkjet, internet service agreement, his name at the top, the address below, the monthly total, the auto pay line with the last four of his card. No commentary, just the picture. I wrote back, "Looks good." He sent a thumbs up, then nothing else. I put the phone down. Silence did what it does. The TV down the hall went from roar to chatter to roar again. I stretched my legs on the couch and let the picture of his name at the top take up the space where the old calendar used to live in my head. Monday morning, my dad texted a picture of the modem lights glowing green and, under it, a screenshot of a confirmation email from the internet provider. Auto pay, active, name on account, his. "Looks good," I wrote. He replied with a single check mark emoji, then a separate message a few minutes later. "Can you call in a refill for my lisinopril? Pharmacy says no refills." I typed back, "Zelle, $10, and I'll call. Porch pickup after." The money hit my phone 30 seconds later. I called the pharmacy with his date of birth and doctor's name, asked them to fax the renewal request. Then I called his clinic and gave the nurse the rundown in the calm, polite voice I use at work. By early afternoon, the pharmacy texted him that the refill was ready. I grabbed it on my way to Stella's and left the brown bag on his porch table with a sticky note, "Take at dinner." He opened the door and waved from inside like we were practicing good habits. We were. That week held like a new shape. Andy texted me a simple all set with Harvey. New card on file, the X. I didn't have to write back. My dad sent a photo of the city utilities receipt with a paid stamp and a note. Trash back on schedule Thursday. On Tuesday, he forwarded me an email chain with Christian from the HOA. My dad had sent a photo of the mowed yard and the paid fine. Christian answered, "Received. Property in compliance. Thank you. No extra fines." That thread stayed between them. I didn't reply because it wasn't mine to manage anymore. Wednesday, a group text buzzed to life with my dad's number and Charlotte's. The first message was from her. "We need Ruby to handle the new streaming app. The one we have is awful." I left the chat and texted my dad separately. "Please text me directly." He wrote back, "Understood." Thursday, he zelled me $25 with the note, "Forms." I scanned and emailed him an insurance coordination form his primary needed. He printed it, signed, and sent me a photo to confirm. No fuss, no calls. He picked up his own pen. Stella kept her table set up like a command center. We didn't add anything new. We just kept the folder intact and put it on a bookshelf where I wouldn't trip over it. I slept better on her pullout that week than I had in months. By Friday, I'd toured a one-bedroom across the street from a park I liked. The place was upstairs, small, clean. A decent landlord with a simple application. I texted my dad before I signed. "I won't be moving back. I'm getting my own place near work." He wrote back, "Good. Proud of you." Saturday, Charlotte sent me a message that started, "We're family," and ended with a line about forgiveness that sounded like a threat. I didn't answer. I didn't forward it. My dad texted later. I told her to speak to me about the house. Thank you for staying out of it. Sunday came with the same sounds it always does. Cheers down the hall at Stella's place, then quiet when the first quarter settles in. My dad's house stayed his. He sent a picture of wings on a tray and the game on in the background, a neighbor's elbow in the corner of the frame. Under it he typed, "Good here. Have a nice day." The rhythm stuck. If he needed something, he asked. If I did it, he sent money first. If the tone slipped, I stopped. The first time he wrote, "Can you just—" I waited. He corrected himself. "Will you help me with the DMV registration online?" Zelle sent. I helped. He texted me a screenshot of his name at the top when he was done. I didn't go back inside the house. Twice I did porch drop-offs, a lab order, and then a copy of his living will after he asked me where the folder was, and I told him where to look. He sent me a photo of it signed with a simple "thank you." Charlotte kept her distance from me by necessity. She hovered on the edges of logistics without access to my number through any channel that worked. I heard about her in the shallow ways people hear about each other. She liked a neighbor's Facebook post about fall decor. She trimmed the topiary. She invited people for coffee and called the house ours a lot. What I didn't hear was the word she had thrown at me like a label. My dad didn't either. He stopped her when it came up in front of him once. I didn't hear it, but I saw the absence. She messaged me once more. I deleted it without opening, and the silence held the line for me. By the end of the week, I signed the lease on the one-bedroom. Stella loaded boxes into my trunk and handed me a plant that I immediately Googled how not to kill. I set up my own tiny kitchen with my own labels. I bought my own internet and put my own card on autopay. It felt plain and huge. My dad drove over with a toolbox and tightened a loose cabinet hinge. He stood in the doorway with his hands on his hips and looked at the little rug I'd set by the sink. "You good?" he asked. "I'm good," I said. He nodded. "Me too." He held up his phone. I figured out alarms for my pills, morning and night. "Good," I said. We didn't make it bigger than it was. On his side of town, the lawn stayed short. The trash got picked up on Thursdays. The internet bill came to his email, and when it didn't, he called the provider and waited on hold like everyone else. He sent me the occasional question and a thumbs up when he figured it out himself. Sometimes I helped, sometimes I didn't. The balance felt even. Silence did what years of pleading couldn't. It turned into respect spelled out in receipts and names on accounts. I walked past my spare key on Stella's bookshelf a week later and didn't take it. I didn't need it. I never heard the word maid again.
The worst part about being gaslit is that you're the one holding the match. You're the one who lights the flame, touches it to the frayed end of your own sanity, and watches it burn, all because someone you love told you the fire wasn't real. My name is Martina Daniels. I'm 34, and for the last 6 months my world has been slowly filling with smoke. It started subtly, the way a leak begins. A single drop you dismiss as condensation. My husband Jonas, who's 36 and could charm a confession out of a statue, started having more late nights at the office. Then his phone, which used to lie face up on the coffee table, was suddenly always face down, or in his pocket. One Tuesday, I picked it up to Google a recipe while my own phone was charging. His thumbprint didn't work. He'd changed the passcode. "Oh, new work security protocol," he said breezily when I asked, not looking up from his laptop. "They're making us all update everything. It's a pain." He smiled, that warm, reassuring smile that had always made me feel safe. I felt a pang of guilt for even questioning it. But the drops kept falling, whispered phone calls he'd take on the patio, the glass door sliding shut behind him. The scent of a perfume on his jacket that wasn't mine, faint, floral, and cloying. When I mentioned it, he laughed. Must have been someone from the elevator at work, honey. You know how those things are. I knew I sounded crazy. I could hear it in my own voice. So I went to the people I trusted most, my family. I called my younger sister, Rosalie, first. At 31, she's always been the pragmatic one, the keeper of our family's perfectly curated image. Martina, you need to breathe, she said over the phone, her voice laced with that familiar patient tone she used when I was being dramatic. Jonas adores you. You've been so stressed with work lately, you're probably not sleeping enough, you're just overthinking things. I hung up feeling foolish, but the anxiety wouldn't go away. A week later, I tried my mother, Lucille. She's 58 and believes emotions are a private, slightly embarrassing hobby, like collecting stamps. We were having our weekly lunch when I brought it up. Her fork clinked against her plate. For heaven's sake, Martina. A wife's job is to be a comfort to her husband, not an interrogator. You're going to push him away with this paranoia. What will people think if they hear you accusing him of things? Her words landed like stones. She was right. I was being paranoid. I was letting stress get to me. I was the problem. My self-esteem, already shaky, began to crumble into dust. That night, I decided to fix it. I waited for Jonas to get home, my stomach churning with shame. He walked in looking tired, and I met him at the door. I'm so sorry, I said, my voice thick. I've been awful lately, accusatory and stressed out. You were right, and so were my mom and Rosalie. It's just me. I'm going to be better. He pulled me into a hug, his chin resting on the top of my head. He smelled like fresh air and his familiar cologne. Hey, he murmured into my hair. It's okay. We're a team. We'll get through it. I love you. I melted into his arms, flooded with relief. He loved me. I was just being crazy. We stood there for a long moment, and I felt the knot in my chest finally loosen. We went to bed early, and I fell asleep curled against his back, feeling safer than I had in months. I woke up sometime after midnight. The room was dark, silent except for the soft sound of Jonas's breathing. I turned over ready to drift back to sleep when a faint blue light caught my eye. It was coming from his side of the bed. He was lying on his back, holding a phone I didn't recognize. A slim black case, not his usual silver one. He was texting under the covers, his thumb moving quickly. My heart stopped. Before I could process what I was seeing, a notification banner flashed at the top of the screen. I only saw it for a second, but it was burned into my memory. A name, Evelyn. A message. Can't wait to have you all to myself again tomorrow. And a little kissy face emoji. Jonas's head snapped toward me. He must have felt my body go rigid. His eyes widened in the dim light, and he slammed the phone shut, shoving it deep under his pillow with a panicked, clumsy movement. What was that? I whispered, my voice barely a thread. He propped himself up on an elbow, his face a mask of concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. Nothing, honey, just a work phone. An urgent email came through. Go back to sleep. He leaned over to kiss my forehead, but I flinched. The smoke was no longer just in the air. It was in my lungs, choking me. And for the first time I realized I wasn't the one holding the match. He was. And he'd been setting my world on fire for a very, very long time. I didn't sleep. I lay perfectly still, my back to him, my eyes wide open in the dark. I listened to his breathing deepen, waiting for the telltale rhythm of true sleep. He thought he'd soothed the crazy wife again. He thought I'd believed him. The condescension in his voice, the gentle pat on my head, it all felt like a lie now, coated in a thin, sticky layer of poison. The next morning was a masterclass in theatre. I made him coffee, just the way he likes it. I asked about his day, feigning interest in a meeting I now suspected was a lie. He kissed me goodbye at the door, his hand lingering on my waist. "Have a good day, honey. Try not to worry so much." I smiled, a brittle thing that felt like it might crack my face. "You too." The moment the door clicked shut, the smile vanished. I gave him 15 minutes, enough time to be clear of the neighbourhood. Then I went to work. His closet was the first stop. It was meticulously organised, a sea of grey suits and pressed shirts. Where do you hide a secret in a place with no clutter? I started with the obvious: shoeboxes, coat pockets, the top shelf. Nothing. I was starting to feel that familiar creeping doubt. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was losing my mind. Then I remembered the old gym bag shoved in the back corner, a relic from a fitness kick that lasted 2 weeks 5 years ago. I pulled it out. It was empty except for a single, balled-up grey sock. It felt heavy. Too heavy. My fingers trembled as I unrolled it. There it was, the slim black phone. My breath hitched. It was real. I wasn't crazy. I took it to the kitchen table and pressed the power button. The screen lit up, demanding a passcode. My mind raced. What would it be? I tried his birthday. Nothing. Our anniversary. Nothing. I was about to give up when I remembered the name from the notification. Evelyn. I typed it out. Evelyn. The phone remained locked. Of course it wouldn't be that simple. I stared at the screen, my mind blank with panic, then tried drawing a simple pattern, a lazy L shape. It clicked open. My blood ran cold. He hadn't even tried to be clever. The message threads were right there, hundreds of them. Texts with Evelyn filled with a sickeningly sweet intimacy. Pictures I never wanted to see. Plans for weekends when he was supposedly on business trips. He'd been seeing her for over a year. She was a yoga teacher I'd once recommended he see for stress. The irony was a physical blow, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the group chat, the participants, Jonas, Rosalie, Lucille. The group name, Martina Management. I scrolled, my thumb moving mechanically as my world disintegrated. Rosalie, she called me again, said you smelled like perfume. I told her she was just tired. You need to be more careful, Jay. Jonas, I know. I thought I had it covered. She's getting so paranoid lately. Lucille, it's a phase. Just keep telling her you love her. A little reassurance goes a long way in calming hysterics. Don't let her ruin this for you. Jonas, she almost caught me with the other phone last night. Had to do some fast talking. Rosalie, LOL, my sister, the detective. Just tell her it's for work. She'll believe anything if you say it nicely enough. She always does. They were laughing at me, coaching him. My own mother and sister were active, willing participants in my humiliation. They weren't just enabling him, they were scripting him. Every dismissal, every piece of concerned advice, every time they'd made me feel small and unhinged. It was all a calculated performance. I didn't cry. The pain was too deep for tears. It was a hollow, silent agony that settled in my bones. The woman who had woken up this morning, the one who apologized and tried to be better, was gone. She died right there at the kitchen table, phone in hand. In her place, something else was taking root. Something cold and sharp and clear. This wasn't sadness. It was resolve. I took screenshots of everything, the texts, the call logs, the pictures. I emailed them to a new anonymous account I created on the spot. Then I called my work friend Penny. She's a data analyst, sharp as a tack, and the only person I knew who wouldn't feed me platitudes. Penny, I said, my voice eerily calm, I need your help with something. It's digital. Sure, she said, her voice warm. What's up? I'll tell you later, but first, a quick question. If I wanted to make sure digital files were completely secure and untraceable, how would I do it? There was a pause. Okay, that's not a normal Tuesday question. Are you in trouble? Not yet, I said. After I hung up, I sat there for another minute, the black phone feeling heavy in my hand. I opened the message thread with Rosalie. Her last text to Jonas was from that morning. Is the coast clear? Did she buy it? My fingers flew across the screen. I typed a reply, pretending to be him. Yeah, she's fine. Totally clueless. As usual, I hit send. A few seconds later, her reply popped up. Perfect. See you both at Mum's for dinner Sunday. Don't forget to bring the good wine. We deserve it. A single humorless laugh escaped my lips. They had made it so easy. They had taught me exactly how to lie. And I was about to become a very, very good student. The first thing I did was put the phone back. I wiped it clean of my fingerprints, rolled it back up in the grey sock, and tucked it into the old gym bag, shoving it into the deepest, darkest corner of the closet. A crime scene returned to its original state. Then I went about my day, a ghost in my own home. The performance began that Sunday at my mother's house. The air was thick with the smell of roasted chicken and smug satisfaction. Jonas put his arm around me as we walked in, a public display of the loving, patient husband. Rosalie kissed my cheek, her eyes scanning my face for any lingering signs of a meltdown. You're looking better, she said a little too brightly. I gave her a fragile smile. I feel better. You guys were right. Over dinner, I laid it on thick. I apologized to all of them. I told them I'd been overwhelmed, that I'd let my anxiety get the best of me, and that I was so grateful for their patience. I've actually started seeing a therapist, I lied, looking directly at Jonas. She's helping me work through some of my trust issues. It's been enlightening. Jonas beamed, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I'm so proud of you, honey. Whatever you need. Lucille nodded in stern approval. Well, it's about time you took responsibility for your emotional state, Martina. A stable mind is the cornerstone of a stable home. They bought every word. They drank their expensive wine, celebrating their successful Martina management, while I ate my chicken and planned their demise. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Outwardly, I was the perfect healing wife. I was attentive, affectionate, and apologetic. Inwardly, I was a detective, an archivist of my own betrayal. Penny helped me set up a cloud-based storage drive, triple encrypted. We named the main folder Recipes. Inside, subfolders took shape: bank statements, phone records, audio files. I started with the money. It was shockingly easy. I had access to our joint accounts, and from there I found a credit card in Jonas's name I'd never seen before. The statements told a story of hotel rooms on nights he was supposedly working late, expensive dinners for two at restaurants we never went to, and a recurring charge for a spa package at a boutique downtown. I looked up the spa. It was attached to a yoga studio, Evelyn's yoga studio. Next came the audio. I downloaded a voice recording app on my phone that could activate discreetly. I'd leave it running on the kitchen counter when I went to run errands. I captured snippets of his phone calls, the hushed, sweet tone he used with her, so different from the patronizing warmth he reserved for me. No, she has no idea, I heard him murmur one afternoon. She's been better lately, back to her old self. It's actually a relief. I saved the file under casseroles. The hardest part was seeing her. I knew I had to do it, to see the woman who was a co-author of my pain. I engineered a chance encounter. I knew from the credit card statements that she liked a small coffee shop near her studio. I went there one morning and sat with a book. Sure enough, she walked in, glowing in her yoga pants and perfect ponytail. She ordered a green tea. I stood up as if to leave, timing it so we'd reach the door at the same time. "Evelyn, hi, it's Martina, Jonas's wife. I don't know if you remember me." Her eyes widened for a fraction of a second before a professional calm settled over her features. "Of course, Martina, so good to see you." "I just wanted to thank you," I said, my voice dripping with sincerity. "Jonas was so stressed out for a while, and ever since he started your sessions, he's been like a new man. Whatever you're doing, it's working wonders." She looked flustered, a faint blush creeping up her neck. "Oh, well, I just guide the practice. He does all the work." "You're too modest," I said with a wide smile. "We should all get dinner sometime." I walked away, leaving her standing there with a confused look on her face. She didn't suspect a thing. She just thought I was the clueless, grateful wife. It was exactly what I wanted. That night, Jonas came home late again. He found me on the sofa, reading. He sat beside me and pulled me into a hug, nuzzling my neck. I didn't flinch. I leaned into him, letting him hold me. "I'm so glad you're feeling better," he whispered. I pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes, my expression soft and loving. "Thank you for being so patient with me." He smiled, that same charming, dishonest smile. I smiled back. In the pocket of my jeans, my phone was warm. On the screen was a gallery of screenshots I'd taken that afternoon from his second phone, a new batch of texts between him and Evelyn, planning their next session. He was holding a woman who was cataloguing his lies, and he was so arrogant, so sure of his own cleverness that he couldn't feel the chill. The perfect weapon is never a weapon at all. It's a gift, a gesture of love so grand and public that no one would ever suspect the poison hidden inside. My perfect weapon arrived in the form of a save-the-date email from my mother, celebrating 40 years of Lucille and Richard Daniels. My father, Richard, was a largely absent figure in our lives, a quiet man who preferred his study to family dinners, but Lucille insisted on marking every milestone with the pomp and circumstance of a royal wedding. This year, for their 40th, she wanted a proper party, not at her house, but somewhere elegant, a catered affair. An idea, cold and brilliant, bloomed in my mind. This was it, the stage. I waited a few days before approaching them, letting the idea of party planning stress build. Then, over another Sunday dinner, I made my move. "Mum, I've been thinking about the anniversary party," I said, passing the mashed potatoes. "I know how much it means to you, and I'd love to take care of it. All of it." 3 pairs of eyes stared at me. Jonas looked surprised, Rosalie looked suspicious, and Lucille looked intrigued. "What do you mean, all of it?" my mother asked, her fork hovering mid-air. "I mean, I'll find the venue, handle the caterer, the invitations, everything. My treat," I said, forcing a warm, daughterly smile. "Think of it as my way of saying thank you. For everything. For being so patient with me these last few months." The mood at the table shifted. Rosalie's suspicion melted into condescending approval. "Wow, Martina, that's a big undertaking. Are you sure you're up for it?" "I've never felt more clear-headed," I said, meeting her gaze. Jonas, ever the opportunist, saw an angle. "That's a fantastic idea, honey. In fact, I've been meaning to find a way to thank Tyrell Ramirez and some of my other associates for a big deal we just closed. A classy family party would be the perfect setting to show my appreciation." "We could invite them." He was suggesting using my parents' anniversary party to network. The audacity of it was breathtaking. It was perfect. "Of course," I said sweetly. "The more the merrier." Lucille, won over by the promise of a free party she could still take credit for, clapped her hands together. "It's settled then. Oh, Martina, this is wonderful. It shows you're really getting back to your old self." I spent the next month meticulously planning their downfall under the guise of party preparation. I booked a beautiful private dining room at a high-end restaurant with a state-of-the-art audio-visual system. I paid the deposit with my own savings, a secret account Jonas didn't know about. I designed the invitations, chose the menu, and tasted the wine. My main project, however, was the tribute slideshow. I want to make a special video for them, I announced to the family. A walk down memory lane. I'll need old photos, home videos, all of it. They handed over boxes of memories without a second thought. And I, the devoted daughter and wife, took on the role of family historian. One evening I had Penny over. My laptop was open on the dining table, a timeline of smiling family photos laid out in a video editing program. This is the public version, I told her, clicking through pictures of birthdays and holidays. The real one is here. I opened a different project file. The timeline was darker, interspersed with screenshots of texts, snippets of audio waveforms, and scanned images of bank statements. Penny leaned forward, her expression grim. "Martina, this is scorched earth." "It's what they deserve," I said, my voice flat. She helped me edit. She showed me how to embed the audio files so they'd be clear and how to time the reveal of the text messages for maximum impact. We worked for hours, fueled by coffee and a cold, shared sense of justice. She was the only person who had seen the evidence, the only one who knew the truth. With a week to go, everything was in place. The RSVPs were in. Jonas's business partners were coming. Evelyn had even sent a polite regret, which was a small mercy. I felt a strange sense of calm, the quiet that comes when you've packed for a long journey and are just waiting for the train. That night I came home to an envelope on the floor, slipped under the front door. It was plain white, no stamp, no return address. My name was typed on the front. My heart hammered against my ribs. I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a short typed message. "Be careful." Family doesn't forgive this kind of betrayal. I stared at the words, a chill spreading through me. My plan was a secret. Only Penny knew. Who else could have sent this? It wasn't a threat. It felt like a warning. Someone was watching. Someone knew. And for the first time since I'd found the phone, I felt a flicker of fear. My carefully constructed performance had a crack in it, and I had no idea who was holding the hammer. The anonymous note sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days, a white rectangle of accusation. My first thought was Samara. My aunt, Lucille's 60-year-old sister, had always been an observer. At family gatherings she'd sit quietly, her eyes missing nothing. She possessed a stillness my mother and sister lacked, a quality I'd always mistaken for disinterest, but now wondered if it was wisdom. Had she seen the cracks in my marriage long before I had? I decided to test the theory. I called her under the pretense of asking about a family recipe for the party's dessert menu. We chatted for a few minutes about cakes and caterers before I steered the conversation. "It's been a lot, planning this whole thing," I said, injecting a note of weariness into my voice. "But I'm glad to do it. After the rough patch Jonas and I had, it feels good to focus on something positive for the family." There was a pause on her end. "Family can be a difficult thing, Martina," she said, her voice even. "Sometimes the people who are supposed to hold you up are the ones who push you down." It was cryptic, but not a confession. It was the kind of general wisdom an older relative might offer. It wasn't her. The real source of the note revealed himself a few days later. My cousin, Jesse Franklin, who was 35, and Samara's son, called me. He was usually a peripheral character in my life, someone I saw only at holidays. He wore his judgment like a well-tailored suit, and I'd always found him a bit standoffish. "Hey, Martina, got a minute?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. "Jesse, is everything okay?" Yeah, I wanted to talk to you before the party, privately. We met for coffee the next day. He looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat and avoiding my eyes. Did you get my note? He asked finally. I just stared at him. That was you. Why? He finally looked at me, and the judgment I'd always seen in his expression was replaced by something that looked a lot like guilt. Because I saw something a couple of years ago. I was at that yoga place downtown picking up a gift certificate for my wife. I saw Jonas in the parking lot. He was with a woman, the instructor. He kissed her, Martina, like really kissed her. My coffee cup felt heavy in my hands. Evelyn, he nodded. I confronted him. He told me it was a mistake, a one-time thing, that he was going to end it. He begged me not to tell you, said it would destroy you, so I went to your mum instead. I thought she should know. And what did Lucille say? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She told me to stay out of it, Jessie mumbled, looking down at his hands. She said you were fragile and that Jonas was a good man who'd made a silly error. She said telling you would do more harm than good, and that it was my duty to the family to keep my mouth shut. He'd been carrying this for 2 years. My mother had known for 2 years. The betrayal wasn't a recent development. It was a long-standing conspiracy. Thank you for telling me, Jessie, I said, my voice betraying no emotion. You did the right thing. Eventually. I added his story to the file. It was another layer, another brick in the wall of their deceit. But his confession led me down a new path. Lucille's insistence on protecting Jonas felt disproportionate. It wasn't just about appearances. It felt financial. That night I delved into a part of our lives I rarely thought about, the family inheritance. My grandparents had left a modest trust fund for my sister and me, managed by my parents until we turned 40. It wasn't a fortune, but it was significant. I had never bothered to look at the statements, trusting my mother implicitly. It took some digging in my father's old desk, but I found the paperwork. The account was with a small local investment firm. I called them the next morning, pretending to be my mother's assistant, and requested the last 5 years of statements for tax purposes. They arrived in my inbox an hour later. The numbers were wrong. There were withdrawals, large ones labelled as capital investments, that I knew nothing about. Tens of thousands of dollars moved out of the trust and into a holding company I'd never heard of. I googled the company name. The registered agent was Jonas Hughes. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had been systematically stealing from my family, from me and Rosalie, with my mother's blessing. The business travel, the expensive gifts for Evelyn, the hotel rooms, it wasn't just his money, it was mine. The last piece of the puzzle clicked into place by accident. I was at the mall picking up a dress for the party when I heard familiar voices, Rosalie and Evelyn. They were sitting at a cafe, heads close together, laughing. I ducked behind a large potted plant, my phone already in my hand, the recording app open. And then she told me she was in therapy, Rosalie was saying, her voice dripping with mirth. Like she's finally self-aware enough to realise she's the problem. It's almost a relief. Jonas can finally breathe. He does seem more relaxed, Evelyn said, her voice smooth as silk. He said she's been so much easier to be around lately. She's trying to make up for her little breakdown, Rosalie said with a dismissive wave of her hand. It's pathetic, but at least it's quiet. I stood there, hidden by fake leaves, listening to my sister and my husband's mistress dissect my sanity over lattes. The anger I felt was so pure, so cold, it burned away any last shred of doubt or hesitation. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about the complete and utter demolition of my life by the people who claimed to love me. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had erased me, and I was about to return the favour. The night before the party I invited Penny over. The final version of the slideshow was loaded on my laptop. The house was quiet, a silent stage waiting for its final act. I poured us both a glass of wine. "I need to show you everything," I said, my voice steady. "The financial records, the recording of Rosalie and Evelyn, Jessie's story. You need to know the full scope before tomorrow." We sat at the dining room table, the same table where Jonas and I had shared hundreds of meals. I walked her through it all, the embezzlement from the trust fund, the years-long cover-up my mother orchestrated, my sister's gleeful complicity. I played her the audio I'd recorded at the mall. Rosalie's laughter echoed in the silent room, tinny and cruel. Penny listened without interrupting, her expression growing harder with each new piece of evidence. When I was finished, she just shook her head slowly. "This is so much worse than an affair," she whispered. "Martina, what they did to you. It's monstrous." She looked at the laptop, then back at me, her eyes full of concern. "Are you sure about this? Once you press play, there's no going back. You'll burn every bridge you have." "They're already ash," I said, taking a sip of my wine. "They just don't know it yet. They burned the bridges, Penny. I'm just turning on the floodlights so everyone can see the wreckage." She nodded, a grim understanding on her face. "Okay, then let's make sure it's perfect." We spent the next hour finalising the video. We layered in the audio of Rosalie and Evelyn over smiling photos of the two sisters. We timed the reveal of the bank transfers to coincide with pictures of Jonas and me on vacation, trips paid for with my own stolen inheritance. I recorded my voiceover, a calm, chilling narration that tied all the pieces together. It wasn't the voice of a victim. It was the voice of a narrator closing the final chapter of a very dark story. When we were done, Penny locked the presentation file with a password only she and I knew. "Just in case he tries to rush the stage and shut it down," she said. It was a practical, terrifying thought. After she left, I walked through the house, a stranger in my own life. Every photo on the wall felt like a prop from a play I hadn't realised I was in. The wedding portrait in the hallway, the two of us smiling, felt like a cruel joke. I was in the bathroom staring at my own reflection when Jonas came home. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder and meeting my eyes in the mirror. "There you are," he said, his voice a low murmur. "You seem different lately. Got your spark back." The irony was so thick I could taste it. It tasted like bile. For a split second I almost faltered. The man in the reflection was the man I had loved, the man I had built a life with. A wave of grief for the life I thought I had washed over me. What if I just deleted the file? What if I just let it all go and pretended I didn't know? But then I saw it in his eyes, the same condescending warmth, the same self-satisfied glint of a man who believed he had successfully managed his wife's little emotional crisis. He wasn't seeing me. He was seeing a problem that had been solved. I turned in his arms to face him, forcing a smile. "I just feel clear, ready for a fresh start." He leaned in to kiss me, a long, slow kiss that felt like a lie. I kissed him back, my mind a block of ice. It was the last time. Later that night, long after he was asleep, I went back to the bathroom. I stared at my reflection, at the woman they had tried to break. They had underestimated her. They thought she was fragile, emotional, easy to manipulate. They had never considered that a person pushed to the brink doesn't always shatter. Sometimes they sharpen. I leaned closer to the mirror, my breath fogging the glass. I practiced the words I would say, the final lines of my script. "I was never crazy," I whispered to the woman in the mirror. Her eyes, clear and cold, stared back at me. "But you're all about to be." The private dining room was exactly as I'd pictured it. Elegant, understated, and filled with liars. the low hum of conversation mixed with the clinking of wine glasses. My mother, Lucille, was in her element, holding court near the head of the table, while my father stood beside her, a silent, smiling accessory. Rosalie flitted between guests, her laughter bright and artificial. Jonas was working the room, shaking hands with his business associate Tyrell Ramirez and the other partners he'd invited. He caught my eye from across the room and gave me a proud, beaming smile, the loving husband so pleased with his competent, now stable wife. I smiled back, a perfect placid mask. Penny, seated at a table near the back, gave me a subtle, steadying nod. Dinner was a blur of polite conversation and bland food. I ate little, my stomach a tight knot of anticipation. Toasts were made. My father gave a short, mumbled speech. Rosalie spoke eloquently about the perfection of our family and the example our parents had set. It was all a beautiful, hollow performance. Finally, it was my turn. "And now Martina has prepared a special tribute for our happy couple," Rosalie announced, gesturing to me. I walked to the front of the room, my laptop in hand. I connected it to the projector, my movements calm and deliberate. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the room. 40 years is an incredible milestone, I began, my voice clear and strong. It's a testament to love, but also to loyalty, to the secrets we keep to protect the ones we love. So tonight, I wanted to create something that honors not just the memories we display, but the truths we hide. I pressed play. The video started innocently enough. Old photos of my parents' wedding, pictures of Rosalie and me as children, soft instrumental music played in the background. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Jonas put his arm around my chair, squeezing my shoulder. Then the music faded. A screenshot of a text message filled the screen. It was from the Martina management group chat. "Rosalie, she's getting so paranoid lately." A gasp rippled through the room. Rosalie's face went white. Before anyone could react, the next slide appeared. A bank statement showing a $20,000 transfer from the family trust to Jonas's holding company. My recorded voice filled the silence. It started with small lies. The slideshow became a relentless montage of betrayal. Text messages between Jonah and Evelyn, their words of love and longing plastered on the giant screen for everyone to see. Audio clips of Jonas on the phone, telling her he loved her. The recording of Rosalie and Evelyn in the mall, their laughter echoing through the stunned room as they called me pathetic. Jonas shot to his feet. "Martina, what the hell is this? Stop it!" He lunged for the laptop, but I was ready. I snapped the lid shut. "It's password protected, Jonas." The show continued. I narrated the story of Jesse's discovery, his words now typed out on the screen. She told me to stay out of it, to protect the family. My mother stared at the screen, her face a frozen mask of horror. This wasn't in her script. She was losing control of the narrative. Tyrell Ramirez and the other business partners were staring at Jonas, their faces a mixture of shock and disgust. This wasn't just a family drama, this was a public execution of his character. Their charming, trustworthy associate was a thief and an adulterer. The final slide was a simple, stark image of the holding company's registration, with Jonas's name clearly listed as the agent. My voiceover delivered the final lines. "To the people who broke me, thank you, because now there's nothing left to lose." The screen went black. The lights came up. Chaos erupted. Tyrell stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He didn't even look at Jonas. He just turned to his partners and said, "We're done here." They walked out without a word. My mother started to cry, not quiet, dignified tears, but ugly, gulping sobs of pure rage. "How could you?" she shrieked at me. "You've ruined everything." Rosalie, her face contorted with fury, marched toward me and slapped me hard across the face. The sting was sharp, but I barely felt it. I just looked at her, my expression unreadable. Jonas stood frozen, his face ashen. He looked from me to the empty chairs of his business partners, the full weight of his public and professional ruin crashing down on him. Evelyn wasn't there, but I knew the story would get back to her. She would finally see that she wasn't his great love. She was just a prop in his game, and now a casualty in mine. I picked up my laptop and my purse and walked toward the door. No one tried to stop me. As I left, I heard the beginning of the screaming match, the sound of a perfectly curated family tearing itself apart. I didn't look back. The funeral of secrets was over. I was the only one who had walked away from the grave. I didn't go home. I didn't even go to Penny's. I drove for an hour with no destination in mind, the slap still stinging on my cheek, until I found myself on a quiet, tree-lined street I hadn't visited in years. I parked in front of Samara's house. She opened the door before I even knocked, as if she were expecting me. She didn't look surprised, just tired. She led me inside, made me a cup of tea, and sat with me in her quiet living room. "Jessie called me," she said softly. "He told me what you did." I just nodded, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. "Your mother did the same thing to me 30 years ago," Samara said, her gaze distant. "My first husband, he wasn't a good man. When I tried to leave him, Lucille told me I was being hysterical, that I was embarrassing the family. She told me to think of my reputation. It was never about my happiness. It was always about her control over the story." We sat in silence for a long time. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was alone in the wreckage. I stayed with her for the next few weeks. My phone buzzed with blocked numbers and venomous texts, which I ignored. The world I had set on fire could burn without me for a little while. The fallout was swift and brutal, filtering back to me in bits and pieces. Tyrell Ramirez and his partners didn't just walk away. They initiated a full financial audit of their joint ventures with Jonas. The discovery of the embezzled trust fund was all the ammunition they needed. His assets were frozen pending a lawsuit. His business, the one he'd built on my family's money, collapsed in less than a week. Rosalie, publicly humiliated, quit her job and moved out of town. A friend told me she'd posted a vague, dramatic message on social media about cutting toxic people out of her life before deactivating her accounts. The irony was almost funny. Lucille, true to form, tried to spin the narrative. She told the rest of the family that I'd had a severe and violent mental breakdown, that the video was a collection of paranoid delusions. But the evidence was too specific, the financial trail too clear. For the first time in her life, she couldn't control the story, and the silence from the rest of the family was its own kind of verdict. When I finally returned to my house, it was empty. Jonas was gone. A legal-looking letter was on the kitchen table. Divorce papers. He'd left me everything, likely on the advice of a lawyer who told him a quiet settlement was his only hope of avoiding further legal trouble from my family. There was no note, no apology. I hadn't expected one. Life settled into a new, quiet rhythm. I saw Penny for dinner every week. I started going to a real therapist. I sold the house and found a small apartment in a different part of the city. I was starting over, not from scratch, but from a foundation of hard-won truth. One afternoon I was having coffee with Penny. "Have you heard from any of them?" she asked gently. "No," I said, stirring my latte. "And I don't think I will." An apology would require them to admit they were wrong, and their whole world is built on the idea that they're always right. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you." "It wasn't a victory," I said, looking out the window. "It was just an ending." Revenge didn't feel warm or triumphant. It felt like cleaning out a wound. It was a painful, necessary, and deeply lonely process. It brought clarity, not joy. But clarity was all I had ever really wanted. They thought I needed their love to be whole, but I just needed to stop loving the wrong people. That night I thought about the chain of events, the intricate web of lies that had almost suffocated me. I had been a victim of their choices, but my response was my own. I had chosen to become the consequence. I had picked up the match they'd been using to burn me and lit a fire of my own. Maybe karma wasn't fate. Maybe I was her. The version of me that was willing to set the world on fire just to light my own way.
I said yes because it was supposed to be 2 weeks. My name is Isla Sullivan. I'm 31, I own a small 2-bedroom townhouse, and I work in medical billing at a paediatric clinic across town. I'm the older sister, steady, practical, the one who has a labelled bin for batteries and a standing Sunday dinner at my parents' place. My sister Chloe is 26. She's funny until responsibility shows up. Her boyfriend Ross is 27 and does delivery app gigs. They showed up with 2 duffels and a plant that drooped within a day. "It's just 2 weeks," Chloe said in my doorway back in April, hair in a messy bun, charms switched on. "Our move-in date got pushed. It's a stupid clerical thing." "It's fine," I said, because I remember what it's like to scramble. "Spare room's yours. Please keep it tidy and no late guests. I'm up at 6. "Promise," she said, already lugging a bag in. Ross smiled and said, "You're a lifesaver," like he was handing me a compliment instead of a favour. The first few days were easy enough. I slid my office chair into the corner and cleared a shelf in the hall closet. We bumped into each other in the kitchen and laughed about it. Ross swore he'd Venmo me for groceries as soon as his bank cleared. I cooked simple: eggs, rice, roasted vegetables, and they ate whatever I put on the counter. I told myself it was nice to have company again. By the end of week 1, Ross's shoes multiplied by the door like they were breeding: running shoes, work boots, slides, until my entryway looked like a consignment bin. The sink always had one bowl sitting in it, with oatmeal cementing itself to the sides. I washed it because it was there, and I like a clean sink. "You didn't have to do that," Chloe said, breezing out of the bathroom in one of my towels. She didn't reach for the bowl. Their 2-week clock hit day 14, and Chloe said, "Our landlord says Monday, so like 2 more days. Is that chill?" She didn't wait for a full answer, just kissed my cheek like we'd agreed. Monday turned into Friday. "Slow work week," Ross said, tapping his phone. "I'll get you on Saturday." Saturday came and went. I kept the thermostat where I like it and pretended not to notice the dryer going twice in a row for the same load because someone forgot to take it out. The power bill would be higher this month. I told myself it was temporary. By the end of month 1, the rhythms had shifted in ways I hadn't agreed to. I woke to the soft thud of Ross coming in at 1 a.m. and the microwave door slamming like a cymbal. My spare bathroom sprouted their products on every flat surface: an open bag of cotton pads, a hair straightener tethered to the outlet like it lived there. My fridge was full of half-empty takeout containers and a lone lime rolling in the crisper. I was buying the groceries, running the dishwasher, and padding the power bill while they slept late and blamed slow work for missed contributions. "Can you get paper towels?" Chloe texted me from my couch at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. I was at my desk at the clinic, highlighting EOBs and sipping cold coffee. I sent a thumbs up because it was easier than typing no. We have Sunday dinner every week at my parents' place. My mum, Cecilia, cooks like feeding people is a love language and a duty. My dad, Turner, sets out the good napkins and talks about baseball. They like keeping the peace. I didn't tell them much, just, "Chloe and Ross are here for a bit." Mum said, "Good of you," the way she does, and left it at that. The first sign that a bit had turned into open-ended was a Tuesday. I came home to 3 extra voices in my living room. Chloe had invited friends. music from someone's phone, the sweet sour smell of hard seltzer, a stack of my coasters being used as playing cards. "Hey!" Chloe sang out, tossing me a smile like it answered questions. "We're just hanging, won't be late." "It's Tuesday," I said, setting my bag down. "It's early," she said back, meaning it wasn't late yet. Ross lifted a can and said, "Want one?" Like I'd been the one to invite them. I took a breath. "Quiet hours after 10, I said. "Please." "Totally," Chloe said, eyes already elsewhere. 10 came and went. At 11, I put on noise-cancelling headphones and stared at the ceiling fan in the dark. I lay there apologising in my head for wanting my house to be quiet. At midnight, laughter thinned out. At 12:30, the door finally closed. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and stepped on a stray bottle cap in the hall. I picked it up and dropped it in the trash. My phone buzzed on the counter, face down. The notification preview showed my cousin's name, Bailey. She and I send each other memes and family updates, random questions about recipes. I wiped coffee off my thumb and opened her message. Her text changed everything. Bailey's name lit up my screen with a little preview bubble. "You seen this?" I swiped it open at my kitchen counter, spoon halfway to my mouth. It was a video from someone I didn't know, one of those circles at the top of Instagram that disappears in a day. The sound came in too loud. Chloe's face filled the frame, cheeks pink, hair perfect in the way she can make it look without trying. She was laughing at something off screen. Then she leaned in and said, clear as if she were across the table from me, "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." There was a chorus of "no way" and fake scandalised giggles I recognised from last night. Then the clip cut to someone panning over an empty White Claw box like it was a trophy. My living room lamp showed up in the corner for a second. My lamp. Someone had filmed in my house. I watched it twice. The second time with the volume down, my thumb hovering ready to pause on her smile. It didn't look like mine. It looked like a stranger wearing my sister's face, pleased with a joke that landed exactly where she aimed it. Her voice in my living room calling me a maid. A little heat hit the back of my neck, then drained out of me so fast my fingers felt cold. Bailey had typed under the video, "Thought you should see. Are you okay?" I set my phone face down on the counter. I took the spoon out of the bowl and rinsed it clean. The pan on the stove had a rim of orange from last night's noodles and a line of sauce where it had boiled over and dried on the burner. I filled it with water and a drop of soap, watched the water turn cloudy, and started scrubbing. I washed a pan that wasn't mine, then the lid, then the spatula, stacking them upside down on the towel. Chloe's door opened down the hall and closed again. Bare feet. A whisper of voices. I didn't look up. My chest did that hot, cold, hot cycle again, like opening a freezer and standing in front of it, then stepping away. If I marched down the hall with my phone and threw the words in her face, we'd have a scene. She'd cry, or she'd charm, or she'd turn it into a joke. I could hear my mum already. You know how she is. I wasn't going to give anyone the show they were expecting. I dried my hands and picked up my phone. I saved the video. I tapped the 3 dots and screen recorded a copy, because the little circle at the top of the app evaporates in 24 hours, and I didn't want to rely on anyone else's timing. I sent Bailey a single heart so she knew I saw it. Then I opened my laptop. Blank document. New file, untitled. I typed house rules in the header and stared at the blinking cursor. It felt a little like lining up spices with their labels facing out. Not moral judgment, just order. Rent due on the 1st, amount TBD. Utilities split, flat rate each month. No endless laundry cycles. Thermostat stays at 72 unless we talk. Quiet hours after 10 p.m, weekdays. Guests out by 10 unless I approve in advance. Clean up after yourself same day. Dishes washed and put away. Counters wiped. Trash out when full. Shared spaces are shared. No permanent storage on the bathroom counter. Shoes in the basket by the door. 2 pairs max. Chore rotation, trash top, recycling, surfaces, floors, alternate weekly. No smoking, vaping inside, no drugs. Alcohol in moderation. Respect. No filming, recording in the house without asking. The last one surprised me as I typed it, but I left it there. I added examples in parentheses under each point, so there wasn't wiggle room to pretend confusion. What clean meant, what quiet meant, what guests out meant. I didn't make it a manifesto. I didn't write because I'm tired of being taken advantage of, or I'm not your maid. I just wrote down how a livable house works. My phone buzzed again. Bailey, call me later, and then again. Chloe, can you grab oat milk? I flipped the phone over and took a breath. I typed oat milk on my grocery list and circled it harder than it needed circling. Then I highlighted rent due on the 1st and made it bold. At the clinic, the morning moved in its usual rhythm. I keyed in CPT codes, checked dates of service, called an insurer about a denial. Lindsay leaned around my cubicle partition and slid me a granola bar with a grin. You look like you need this, she said. Thanks, I said, and meant it. I didn't explain anything. We had a stack of claims that needed to go out by 3. On lunch, I reopened my draft and started shaping it from a list into something you could hand someone. By living here, you agree to failure to comply may result in words that felt formal but not cruel. I added a line at the top, effective immediately. I left the amounts blank because I didn't want to guess and then change it later. Numbers need to be right when you say them out loud. In the afternoon, Chloe sent a selfie from my couch with my throw blanket bunched under her chin and the caption to me only, "We love you." A sticker heart covered the corner of her smile. I didn't answer. I went home on time, let myself in, and found the plant they'd brought slumped lower in its pot, leaves dull. I watered it. I took out the trash. I taped a note to the fridge that said, "House talk tonight at 7. At 6:59, I took the note down and folded it into the recycling bin. Not yet. Not like this. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right, once, clean. No yelling in my own kitchen. No he said she said later. I closed my laptop and slid it into my bag. I put the saved video in a folder named House. Then I opened a fresh document and titled it something else entirely. Lease. I didn't bring it up that night. I made pasta, loaded the dishwasher, and let the steam fog my glasses so no one would see me thinking. When they drifted to the spare room, I opened my laptop again and started over, not with house rules, but with something that mattered if someone rolled their eyes at it. I Googled month-to-month room rental, our state, and clicked through tenant law pages until the language stopped feeling like a foreign country. 30 days notice to terminate. Owner-occupied exemptions. What goes in a lease for a room? Rent amount, due date, utilities, house rules, deposit, entry rights, guest policy. I copied a template and stripped out the parts that didn't fit a 2-bedroom townhouse with an owner on site. Numbers needed to be real, not guesses. I pulled up the listings for rooms near me. Most wanted between $700 and $900. I settled on $750 rent, due on the 1st, with a 5-day grace period and a $25 late fee after that. Utilities, $100 flat to cover water, electric, internet, trash. Deposit, $300, due on signing, refundable minus damages. I put those in bold on page 1. House rules went under a clean heading. Standards for shared living. No essaying. Bullets with examples. Quiet hours 10 p.m, 7 a.m, Sunday, Thursday. Guests out by 10, unless approved 24 hours ahead. Example, hangouts end by 10. No new arrivals after 9. Clean up same day. Dishes washed and put away. Counters, sink wiped. Stove under burners wiped if spills. Example, no bowls soaking overnight, no dried sauce on burners. Bathroom, no storage on counters, hang towels, wipe sink, potch hair after use. Laundry, 1 load at a time, remove when done, no rerunning to fluff. Shoes in the basket by the door, max 2 pairs each. No smoking, vaping or drugs inside, alcohol in moderation. No filming, recording inside without permission from everyone present. I added a chore rotation. Week A, trash, recycling and surfaces. Week B, floors and bathrooms, alternating on Sundays. I included a small box to initial acknowledging received keys, front door, mailbox. Not scolding, just a system. Then I opened a fresh spreadsheet and started a tab called House Expenses Covered. Date, item, amount, note. Groceries I'd paid since April. The power bill bump after the dryer marathons and midnight microwaving. Paper towels, 4 packs, because a roll disappeared in a day when 3 people pretended it was napkins, placemats and a sponge. The broken lamp base I'd taped last week, Ross had knocked it over during a late-night story that required grand arm gestures. He'd said, "My bad," and held the shade back on like that fixed gravity. I taped the base and wrote "replace later" in my head. Now I gave it a line with a question mark for cost. The plant they brought drooped farther. I watered that too, then sat back down. My coffee went cold twice. I kept going. It was Thursday. Sunday dinner was already on, but I texted my mum anyway. "What can I bring?" She answered fast because she always does. "Just yourself. Maybe some bread if you want." Heart emoji. I typed, "I'll grab bread. See you around 5. I printed 2 copies of the lease and the house rules addendum. The printer chugged and spit them out in neat stacks that made my chest loosen a little. I slid them into a manila folder with a pen clipped on. On top, I tucked a sheet that said, "Sign by Tuesday 6 p.m, in a simple font, no underline. I put the saved video on my desktop in a folder named House and made sure the sound worked. Friday morning, I moved like normal. Work, granola bar from Lindsay, codes and calls. During lunch, I called the post office and asked about certified mail, return receipt. The clerk explained the green card and how it comes back signed. I wrote it down on a sticky note and stuck it to the inside of the folder. Do it right the first time. At home that night, Ross had his shoes in a line so wide I had to step over them to get in. "Sup," he said, eyes on his phone. Chloe was on my couch with a towel wrapped around wet hair scrolling. "Sunday dinner at Mum's," I said. "You both coming?" "Duh," Chloe said, smiling up at me. "Mum's lasagna, wouldn't miss it." "Bring bread," Ross said, like he was helping. "I've got bread," I said, "and something to go over after we eat." Chloe's eyes flicked up. "Like what?" "House stuff," I said. "It'll take 10 minutes. She made a face that would have been funny if I didn't know it. "Can we not do this, Is? We're leaving soon anyway." "Sunday," I repeated, 10 minutes. She shrugged and went back to her phone. "Sure, 10. Saturday I cleaned the kitchen like I do before I leave a space where I'll have to say hard things. Counters wiped, sink empty, the good dish towel out. I tucked the manila folder in my tote with the bread and my charger. I rehearsed in my head while vacuum lines stitched neat rows into the rug. I love you. I need my home back. This is the path forward. It sounded stiff at first, like something off a website. I kept smoothing it until the words felt like mine and not an apology. That night, I lay in bed and watched the light from my phone clock move across the wall. From the hall, a whisper of laughter, then quiet. I put my hand on my chest and measured my breath with the rise and fall. Sunday was coming. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to hand over the paper and let it say what I needed it to say. Sunday smelled like garlic and butter. I tucked the bread under my arm, the manila folder in my tote, and rang the bell with my elbow. Mum called, "Come in," before I finished turning the knob. "Bread hero," Dad said, taking the bag and kissing my cheek. He had the game muted on the living room TV, scores crawling across the bottom like ants. Chloe and Ross came in behind me with a bottle of red someone had half-wrapped in tissue. "We brought wine," Chloe announced, already reaching for a glass. "Is this spaghetti?" "Spaghetti," Mum said, stirring the pot, "and a salad, because I don't want to hear about scurvy." Ross grinned. "I was betting lasagna," he said to me, like we had a secret. I set the bread down and slid my tote into the corner by the hutch. My folder knocked lightly against the wood. I felt the weight of it like a hand on my shoulder and let the feeling sit. We ate, we passed Parmesan, we listened to Dad tell a story about the neighbours' new tomato cages. Chloe was good at this. The easy jokes, the "Mum, this is so good," the quick laugh when Ross said something that didn't land. I answered questions about the clinic and nodded when Mom asked if I'd seen the new paediatrician's dog on Facebook. Normal, normal, normal. I chewed, swallowed, sipped water and waited for plates to empty. When they did, I stood up and stacked them. "Leave it," Mum said, but I carried them to the sink anyway and came back with the folder instead. I laid out the copies of the lease like placemats, one in front of Chloe, one in front of Ross. Dad's hands went still on his napkin. Mum's smile didn't move, but her eyes did. "What's this?" Chloe asked, a little laugh already warmed up. I set my phone on the table, screen black. "This is a month-to-month lease for the room," I said. "Rent is $750 due on the 1st, utilities $100 flat, $300 deposit on signing. House rules are attached. If you sign by Tuesday at 6, we're good. If not, I'll send a 30-day notice." Chloe blinked like I'd switched languages. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes," I said. I tapped my phone and pulled up the video. "And I want to play something first." "Isla," Mum said softly, like she was stepping between kids. "Dinner table?" "It's the only table we all sit at," I said. I pressed play. Chloe's face filled the screen, laughing, leaning in, the line I knew by heart after 2 watches. "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." Laughter, the empty white claw box, my lamp in the corner. The clip ended, and the table sounded loud with how quiet it was. Mum's jaw tightened in a way I'd only seen a handful of times. Dad looked down and folded his napkin in half, then in half again. Ross shifted in his chair and tried on a smile that didn't fit. "Come on, it was a joke," he said. "People say dumb stuff on stories." Chloe's cheeks went high red. "Who even sent you that? Bailey? God, she's such a—" "Don't," I said, and my voice stayed level. "This isn't about Bailey. This is about my house." Chloe pushed back her chair an inch, then set it down. "We told you we're leaving soon." "It's been 3 months," I said. "I offered help for 2 weeks. I need my home back. This is the path forward. You sign this by Tuesday at 6, or I'll mail a 30-day notice. No hard feelings." "No hard feelings?" Chloe's laugh was all edges now. "You play a video of me at Mum's table and drop a contract like you're my landlord." "I am your landlord," I said, calm. "Right now, without paperwork, this makes it clear." Mum touched my forearm, fingers light. "Do you really want to make this a thing?" "It already is," I said, and didn't pull my arm away or lean in. I just left my hand there on the table next to the paper with my name at the top. Ross glanced at the lease like it might bite him. "We can talk about it," he said, voice sliding into friendly. "We'll figure something out that works for everyone." "This works for me," I said. "If it doesn't work for you, I understand. Sign by Tuesday or I'll send notice on Wednesday." Dad cleared his throat like a chair leg catching on tile. "Maybe we all take a minute," he offered to the napkin in his hands. Chloe stood up so fast her chair tipped and knocked against the floor. The sound made the dog next door bark like it had been waiting. "I'm not doing this," she said. Eyes shiny, anger and humiliation layered so thick I could see both. "I'm not." "Chloe," Mum said, warning and worry all at once. Chloe grabbed her bag and left. The front door opened and shut with the kind of careful slam that says I'm not slamming, but you heard that, didn't you? Ross sat there for a beat, then stood too, hands up like he was not part of this, not responsible for the chair still askew. "I'll talk to her," he said to the room, then followed. Silence stretched. The sauce pot ticked as it cooled. "I'm not trying to embarrass her," I said finally. "I'm trying to not resent my sister in my own house." Mum's hand was still on my arm, and she squeezed once, then let go. "I hear you," she said, voice tight. This is a lot." "I kept it small," I said. "Paper and dates." Dad set his napkin down in a neat square. "Let me walk you out," he said, because that's what he can offer. In the driveway, the air smelled like cut grass. Dad hugged me and didn't say anything about sides. Mum hugged me and said, "Please be patient," into my hair, and then, quieter, "I know you've been." I drove home with my tote on the passenger seat, the leases sliding a little with each turn. At a red light, my phone buzzed. I didn't check it until I parked and turned the key off. One text from Chloe. A single word. Wow. Monday was quiet in the way a room gets when people are avoiding eye contact. I left for the clinic early and came home to the TV murmuring and a stack of bowls in the sink like they were nesting. No one said the word lease. Chloe's bedroom door stayed closed. Ross slipped past me in the hall with a hey that slid off the floor. I made an omelette, ate it standing up, and set a timer to remind myself, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Tuesday morning, my phone lit up at 9:12. "Mum, be patient." 9:14. "You know how she is." 9:20. "We're family." I typed and erased 3 drafts before sending, "I love you. The deadline is 6. At lunch, Lindsay handed me half her chips across the divider. "You look like you're doing math in your head," she said. "Deadlines," I said, and smiled because I didn't have an appetite for the story. At 5:58, I sat at my kitchen table with the 2 copies of the lease and a pen. The clock on my microwave jumped to 6 with its soft digital blink. Nothing. No footsteps, no, "Hey, let's talk." My phone lit with Mum again. Maybe just give her a week. I set the phone face down on the lease and took a breath that felt like I'd been holding it all day. I opened my laptop and typed out the notice clean and formal. Notice to terminate month-to-month tenancy. Names spelled right, address, the date, effective move-out date 30 days from receipt. I printed 2, signed them both, and slid them into envelopes addressed to Chloe and Ross. I put them with the folder in my tote and added a sticky note, "Certified return receipt." Wednesday at lunch, I drove to the post office. The line moved slow under fluorescent lights that made everyone's face look a little drawn. "Next," the clerk said, and I stepped up with my envelopes and my sticky note like a kid who'd studied. "I need these sent certified mail with return receipt," I said. My hands were steady until he handed me the green cards and told me where to write. The pen caught on the glossy surface, and the lines looked a little shaky. I pressed harder. "Green card comes back to you after they sign," he said, stamping without looking up. Thunk, thunk. I slid my debit card and tucked both receipts into the manila folder as if they were fragile. In the car, I snapped a photo of the tracking numbers and texted Chloe and Ross together. "Notice sent today by certified mail. Move-out date is 30 days from receipt. No reply." That night, the petties started showing up like little flags. The shoes by the door swelled until the entryway was a line of rubber and laces you had to navigate like a maze. I took a photo with the timestamp turned on. The trash can filled to a soft peak and then stayed that way, lid open like a mouth. I took a photo of that too and took the bag out because I couldn't stand the smell. Friday, 2 of Chloe's friends showed up after 10, voices bright and edged with seltzer. I stepped into the hall with my phone in my hand and said, "Quiet hours after 10. "We're just leaving. Chloe sang from the couch, which is what she said at 10:02 and again at 10:31. At 10:43, I texted her from the bedroom. Guests out by 10 means out by 10. Please have them leave now. The front door opened and closed twice. The last laugh sounded like an apology and a dare together. I logged it in my spreadsheet. Date, time, guests past quiet hours. No commentary. I slid the green receipt stubs into a clear sleeve in the folder next to the leases. I printed the USPS tracking page and circled "delivered" when the updates landed, then taped the return receipts inside the folder when they came back a few days later with signatures I knew by the loop and the scratch. When I came home one night, Ross was in the kitchen making a sandwich like the counter was his cutting board. He looked at the folder on the table and then at me. "We'll see if your paper means anything," he muttered, knife tapping the jar. "It already does," I said, and put the folder back in the cabinet with my cookbooks. He rolled his eyes at his mustard and didn't say anything else. Day 8, the dryer ran twice for the same load. I wrote "rerun dryer load" in the log and added the date. Day 10, I found a new chip in the edge of the coffee table and took a close-up photo with a quarter next to it for scale, a trick I stole from a claims adjuster video. Day 12, Mum texted, "Can we all just sit down together?" I replied, "Everything is in writing." She sent a sigh emoji that looked like a cloud. On day 15, Dad called. He doesn't call in the middle of the day unless it's weather or something with the car. "Hey kiddo," he said, "got a minute?" "I do," I said, and stepped into an empty conference room so I didn't have to talk over printers. He cleared his throat. "Any wiggle room on that date?" "Your mother thinks maybe—" "The date is the date," I said, keeping my voice even. "I'm not moving it." "Okay," he said, not disappointed so much as absorbing it. "Okay, you need anything?" "I'm fine," I said. "Thanks for calling." Back at my desk, I added a line to the log. Day 15. Dad called wiggle room, reiterated date. It felt absurd to document that, but it kept me straight. Paper, dates, receipts. When I got home, the plant drooped again. I watered it without expecting it to perk up. The house felt both crowded and empty, people in it but no acknowledgement. I took out the trash again, wiped the counter, and put the folder back on the shelf. The clock kept moving. 30 days is a long time when you're counting, but every page in the folder made it feel shorter. Day 31 started with a text at 9:12 a.m. from Ross. "We'll be out by afternoon." I stared at it in the clinic break room with my coffee and granola bar and replied, "Leave keys on the kitchen counter. Send a photo when you're done." No answer. I went back to EOBs and denials, the steady work that never argues back. At lunch, I drove home to grab a package. The entry was clear for once, no shoe maze, just my basket by the door, empty. Their door was open. The bed I'd loaned them was stripped to the mattress pad. A roll of tape sat on the dresser like a period. No keys on the counter yet. I locked up and went back to the clinic. At 3:47, a photo pinged, my kitchen counter with 2 keys and the mailbox key fanned out like cards. No text, just the picture. I finished my last call, shut down my computer, and drove home with the kind of even breathing I do before blood draws. It hit me when I opened the front door, the quiet you don't notice until it returns. No TV murmuring, no clatter from the bathroom, no low conversation through the wall. Just the hum of the fridge and the faint buzz of the hallway light. I walked through like it was a model home and mine at the same time. The living room had a new stain right where the rug met the coffee table, a pink ring with a comet tail. Seltzer or something worse, set in like it had shook hands with the fibres. The lamp by the couch, the one I'd taped after Ross's story with his arms, was done for. The base had split beyond the tape, the shade dented in one spot like a thumb had pressed too hard. In the kitchen, a blender-shaped hole sat on the counter, and an empty blender box was tucked into the recycling with the top half folded neatly, like they'd been thoughtful about their trash. I bought that blender last year after my old one sputtered out. I could see the charge in my bank app without even scrolling far. The refrigerator was clean in the way that says we ate everything we wanted and left what we didn't. A crusted jar of salsa sat in the door, rings of orange around the rim. I took a photo of that too, because complete tells a better story. I stood there for a full minute and listened to nothing. Then I got my folder. I turned on the kitchen light to cool white and started with wide shots, room by room, then close-ups, the rug stain with 1/4 for scale. The lamp base from 3 angles, tape frayed, crack visible, the counter where the blender should be, the empty spot obvious next to the coffee maker, the keys splayed on the counter. I took that photo first because surrender matters. I pulled up my spreadsheet and added a tab, move out damages, line items, estimated cost, link or receipt. Rug, $240, screenshot of the exact model from the store site where I'd bought it, same pattern because I didn't want a reminder every night. Lamp, $110 for a near match, link attached. Blender, $220, screenshot of my original order confirmation from last year and a current listing. Cleaning, spot remover, rental upholstery cleaner, $50, receipt to follow. Subtotal, $620, deposit received, $0, total due, $620. I printed the spreadsheet and slid it into a sleeve behind the green certified mail cards. Then I sat down at my laptop and drafted a short message to both Chloe and Ross, itemised damages and replacements attached. Total due, $620. Please remit within 10 days to avoid small claims filing. Payment options, cheque, Zelle or cash. This is separate from rent, jot utilities, which were offered via lease and declined. Keys received 3:47 p.m. today. I attached the PDF and hit send. The dots appeared from Chloe, then vanished. 10 minutes later, Ross replied, "That lamp was already broken. Also, that rug stain was there. And we don't have your blender." I took a breath. I replied with 3 photos, no commentary, the lamp with fresh split beyond the tape, the rug on move-in day, clean with vacuum lines, the counter last week with the blender in the frame. Then I added the order confirmation for the blender with the date and my name. No response. I opened the county court website and clicked File a small claim. The form asked for my name, their names, the address, the amount, the reason. I wrote, "Replacement costs for damaged property, rug, lamp, and missing kitchen appliance. Tenants at will vacated on notice. Evidence attached." I uploaded the spreadsheet in a single PDF with the photos, the green cards, and the video file screenshot showing Chloe's free-made line for context. I paid the filing fee with my card and selected service by sheriff because certified mail had already done its job once and I didn't want a second round of "didn't get it." A case number popped up. I wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it to the folder's inside cover. I emailed myself a copy of everything because I've seen too many claims lost to one dead hard drive at work. It was early evening when I finally moved. I took the salsa out of the fridge and twisted the lid. It didn't budge. I ran it under hot water and tried again. The seal gave with a pop. I tossed the jar and took the trash out. On my way back in, I locked the deadbolt and listened to it catch. I vacuumed around the stain because the vacuum lines still calm me, even with a problem in the middle. I put the bent lamp by the front door to haul downstairs. The plant they'd brought sat on the windowsill, leaves drooped into themselves. I watered it anyway. Before bed I texted my mum, "They're out." "Going to small claims for damages. I love you." She replied with a heart and then, a minute later, "Okay, proud of you." I set the folder on my desk, ready for the next step, and turned off the lights. The house held its quiet like a cup. 3 weeks after they left, I took a morning off work and sat on a plastic chair under fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little washed out. The courtroom smelled like dust and coffee. A bailiff read through the docket in a low voice and reminded us to keep phones silent. I kept my folder on my lap, tabs sticking out like teeth. Lease offer, notice, photos, receipts, spreadsheet. Chloe slid into the row across from me 5 minutes late, sunglasses perched in her hair like a headband. Ross trailed behind her and stared at the floor tiles. Neither of them looked at me. When our case was called, we stood at 2 small tables. The judge looked like someone who'd already seen every version of this story. "Miss Sullivan, you're the plaintiff," she said to me. "Tell me what you're asking for." $620, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted. "Replacement costs for a rug and lamp damaged while they lived in my home, and a blender that was missing when they moved out. I'm also requesting court costs." "Start at the beginning," she said, briefly. I breathed once. In April, I let my sister and her boyfriend stay in my spare room for 2 weeks. They stayed 3 months. I offered a month-to-month lease with rent, utilities and house rules. They declined to sign. I sent a 30-day notice by certified mail. I have the receipts and signatures. I slid the green cards forward and the judge glanced at them, then to the screenshots of the tracking page. On move out, I found a stained rug, a broken lamp beyond repair, and the blender missing. I documented with photos here, and I have receipts and links for replacement costs. I put the photo sheet on top, wide shot of the living room with the pink ring near the table, then the close-up with the quarter for scale. The lamp with the fresh split beyond my old tape job, the counter with the blender in frame last week, the empty spot after, my spreadsheet with the totals, the original blender order confirmation with my name and date. Chloe leaned forward. "That lamp was already broken," she said, fast, "and the rug had that stain when we moved in. She's just mad because of other stuff." Ross kept his eyes on the table and didn't add anything. The judge held up a hand, and Chloe's words flattened into the air between us. "You'll have a turn," she said. Then to me, "Anything else?" "One more thing for context." I kept my voice even. A video from their friends' gathering in my living room. It goes to the nature of the arrangement and why I formalised expectations. I didn't look at Chloe. I set my phone face down and then flipped it over, the clip already cued. The judge watched, face unreadable, as Chloe's on-screen voice laughed and used the phrase that had become a splinter in my chest. "My sister's basically my free maid. I could live there forever. She never says no." The judge nodded once and handed my phone back. "The video isn't about damages," she said. "But I understand the background." Chloe jumped in. "I was joking. Everyone jokes on stories," she said, talking fast, words overlapping. She kept saying yes. We didn't sign because we were leaving, and that blender was not there when we packed. She hides stuff so she can— "Stop!" The judge didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "Did you live in the plaintiff's home as tenants at will?" Chloe's mouth opened and closed. "We stayed with my sister," she said finally. "Did you receive a 30-day notice?" Ross spoke for the first time, voice low. "We signed for something, yeah." "Did you leave the home in substantially the same condition as when you arrived?" "We cleaned," Chloe said. "Mostly. The rug was already—" The judge looked down at the photos again, then at me. "The plaintiff has provided dated photos from move-in and move-out, receipts and credible documentation," she said. "The defendants have not provided contrary evidence." My hands were flat on the table. They had been shaking when I started. They weren't shaking now. "I don't want a fight," I said, mostly to the table. "I want my costs covered." "Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $620, the judge said, "plus court costs." She wrote for a minute, pen scratching, then looked up. "You'll receive written notice of the judgment. If payment isn't made, there are collection options available to you." The gavel's light tap was more final than it sounded. Outside the courtroom, the hall smelled like hand sanitizer and old upholstery. I put my folder back in my tote and zipped it. Chloe turned toward me, one hand on her hip like we were teenagers in our parents' driveway again. "You're not my maid anymore," she said. words edged like a dare. I never was, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked toward the elevator, breathing like I'd managed a good mile without stopping, steady in, steady out, a rhythm my body could keep. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. "Mum, how did it go?" I typed. "Judge awarded me $620 plus costs." It was calm. "Love you." She sent back 3 hearts and then, a minute later, "Proud of you." I sat in my car for a moment with my hands on the wheel and the sun warming the dashboard. Across the lot, Ross leaned against a pillar, scrolling. Chloe flicked her sunglasses down and said something I couldn't hear. I turned the key, pulled out, and didn't look back in the rear view longer than I needed to. The road home was short. The house would be quiet. The stain was still there, and the lamp still bent, but the judgment had a weight to it that felt like something settled. Paper, dates, receipts, and now a ruling. 2 weeks after court, I slid a fresh lease across my kitchen table. Lindsay read it line by line, tracing the bold numbers with her finger. "Rent $750, utilities $100, deposit $300, she said. "Quiet hours after 10, got it. Guests out by 10 unless you say otherwise." She smiled. "This is the first time I've been relieved to see a lease." "Same," I said, and handed her a pen. We initialed the chore rotation, week A and week B, and the key receipt. She pulled her phone out and set up autopay while we were still sitting there. The little confirmation ding sounded like someone had put a lid on a pot exactly right. "I'm bringing just a bed and a dresser," she said. "I'll wipe the counters I touch and text before anyone visits. I know the drill." "Your sister's welcome Saturday for an hour," I said. "Text me the time." It felt good to say yes to something small on purpose. That night we did a walk through the way I wish I'd done from the start. "Rug's new," I said. "Vacuum lines still neat." "Lamp matches the old one." I tilted it to show the base was solid, no tape. "Blender lives here." I tapped the counter. "Please don't move it." "Noted," she said, "and I promise I'm not a 1 a.m. smoothie person." When she moved in that weekend, she wiped the inside of the fridge after putting away her groceries without me asking. She texted me at 4:58 on Saturday. "Is 5 still good for my sister? We'll bring cupcakes." They came at 5 on the dot and left at 5:57 with the last of the frosting wiped off the counter. The house settled into a rhythm that felt like exhaling. I'd hear Lindsay's door in the morning when I was pulling on my clinic sweatshirt. I'd come home to the dishwasher humming with exactly 1 cycle and a sticky note on the counter that said, "Ran out of paper towels, I'll grab some." The autopay hit the first of the month at 8:01 a.m. and my bank app pinged before my coffee finished brewing. On a Tuesday, a plain white envelope showed up in my mailbox with my name written in Chloe's looping script. Inside was a money order for $400 and a short note, "For court thing." The second envelope came a week later with $220 and a folded receipt for a money order fee. No apology, no explanation, just the numbers. I took photos of both and added them to the folder, clipping the court's judgment on top. When the clerk mailed the stamped satisfied notice, I slid that in too. The stack of paper was a clean weight I could file and forget. Mum's texts shifted, less "be patient," more pictures of her garden, 2 peppers, a tomato that split in the heat. Dad called one evening and talked about the neighbours' tomato cages again, and how he'd probably copied them wrong, but the plants were standing. "House good?" he asked. "Good," I said. "Quiet?" He hummed, pleased. "I like quiet," he said. "Your mum says we're boring in the best way." Bailey popped by the clinic on her lunch break one day with iced coffees and a smirk. "You mad at me?" she asked, mock dramatic, and then hugged me before I could answer. "Proud of you." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. We didn't dissect anything. We just stood at the curb with our cups sweating and talked about the fair coming up and which vendor had the good lemonade. Chloe and Ross landed in a sublet across town. I know because Mum slipped and said, "It's small, but they'll manage." and because the money orders had return addresses printed with an apartment number I didn't recognise. They haven't reached out beyond those 2 envelopes. I didn't chase them. I kept my door a boundary and not a revolving one. On Lindsay's first rent day, she handed me a little plant in a terracotta pot. "Housewarming," she said. "It's hard to kill." We put it on the windowsill next to the drooped one that never recovered. I didn't throw the dead plant away right then. I waited until Saturday, took it out of the pot and emptied the soil into the yard. I washed the pot and set it upside down to dry. Then I tossed the old leaves in the trash and took the bag out. At the clinic, I still keyed in codes and called insurers, but I sat straighter. Work felt like work, not like the place I caught my breath before going home. The girls at the front desk started a text chain about a potluck. I volunteered to bring bread and a salad without feeling like I was choosing between nice and no. On a Sunday, I went to my parents' house with a loaf of bread under my arm and nothing in my tote but a charger. The game was on, muted. Mum's lasagna smelled like the inside of a memory. We ate and talked about cutworms and whether Dad should give up on basil. No one said anyone's name like a problem we were trying to solve. That night back at my place, I rinsed 2 plates, wiped the counter, and turned off the kitchen light. Lindsay's door clicked shut at 10. I locked the front door and listened to the bolt slide home. It didn't sound like a barricade. It sounded like a decision I made for myself. I still love my sister. I love my peace more. The difference now is I act like both are true.
The monitor kept time for my dad, while the folder in my tote kept time for me. My name is Sella Hayes. I'm 31. I live 20 minutes away in a 1-bedroom off Alessandro, and my dad, Joseph Hayes, is 64, and meticulous about anything with a label or a bolt. He was 2 days out from emergency surgery for a perforated ulcer, sedated and intubated in the ICU at Riverside Community Hospital. Visiting hours didn't start until 10. I sat there at 7:40 a.m., counting the green blips and watching his chest lift around a clear tube, the way the nurse had said was normal. Before they wheeled him back, he'd squeezed my hand and said, "If I'm out of pocket, keep the home standing." 2 weeks earlier, after he first landed in the ER, we'd spent a morning at his bank in Canyon Crest, signing what we needed to. Me added to his safe deposit box card, his notarized letter authorizing me to handle the house and bills while he recovered, and permission to get information on his utilities. He hated paperwork, but he hated loose ends more. I printed copies of everything and stuck them in a blue folder with the deed to the house, his name only, and photos I'd taken of his garage wall. Wrenches hung smallest to largest, bits in a blue box, red drills scented like a cherry on a Sunday. Sandra Martinez had been living at his place informally since January. She's 52, warm when she wants to be, and she slid into the house the way a guest stays after a weekend. She called it us. Dad called it for now. He'd given her a key because he hates making anyone feel unwelcome, and because he was tired of eating alone. I had a key too. I've had one since I started driving. I'm the one who waters his ferns when he goes fishing and sets his thermostat to a number he'll actually keep. I texted my sister, Leah. She's 28 and in Phoenix. Just a selfie of me with a paper cup and a thumbs up. "He's stable," I typed. She replied with a heart and 3 question marks for updates I didn't have yet. By 8:30 I slipped out, the blue folder heavy under my arm. I told the nurse I'd be back after I swung by Dad's to check the mail, water the ferns, and make sure the back gate was latched. Routine, nothing dramatic. I drove straight to the coffee place on Central and bought a large drip, black, and a blueberry muffin because breakfast had been a handful of peanuts from my glove box. The barista wrote, "C'est là," right, and I took it as a small win. Dad's house sits on a quiet street with old sycamores that drop bark like puzzle pieces. Keith across the street waves at anyone who drives slower than 20, and Sophia next door notices when trash bins migrate. Dad built the garage shelves himself. He likes his things where he can find them. He keeps the mower gas in a red can on the bottom left, and his records in the den beneath the window fan. I turned onto his street a little before 9, thinking about ferns and bills and whether Sandra would be sleeping in. I was planning to grab the mail, snap a photo of the thermostat, maybe wash the coffee mugs in the sink if there were any. We hadn't talked that morning. The last time I saw her was Sunday night in the waiting room when she hugged me too hard and said, "I'll hold down the fort." And I said, "I've got it covered." And we both pretended that meant the same thing. I parked at the curb so I wouldn't block the driveway. The sun was already hot enough to bleach the top of the mailbox. I slung my tote over my shoulder, reached for my coffee, and walked toward the gate. That's when I saw the folding table. It was a cheap plastic banquet table, legs bowing in the middle, set up at the edge of the driveway. On it, wrenches, extension cords, an old stud finder, Dad's yellow tape measure with his initials scratched into the side. Each one had a neon sticker, $3, $5, $9, like someone had gone crazy with a highlighter. The garage door yawned open behind it. The bright red drill I'd bought him for Father's Day last year sat front and centre with a 12s, slapped on the side like a joke. There were people. A man I didn't recognise holding a box of sockets, a woman testing the heft of a hammer, another woman counting bills into a plastic tub near the chair. The tub looked like something you'd use for a bake sale. I could smell gasoline and old sawdust and coffee, but not mine. My stomach dropped clean through the driveway to the clay underneath. Price stickers on my father's life. My stomach sank before my voice even found me. Sandra was barefoot, with a roll of neon stickers looped around her wrist, smiling like she was running a church rummage sale. "Go home, Sella," she said, not looking up from the drill. "This is my house now." A man I didn't know counted out bills with the deliberate care of someone buying a used lawn edger. He handed Sandra a crumpled stack. She peeled off change like she'd practiced. By her plastic tub, clear, with a pink lid snapped under her chair, I counted maybe $260 in loose cash, and ones rolled into rubber bands. I set my coffee on the corner of the table so I wouldn't drop it. The muffin was still in the bag, blueberry bleeding through the paper. My tote slid down my shoulder. I took a breath. 2, 3. The garage smelled like hot rubber and the lemon cleaner my dad keeps under the sink. His red drill gleamed like it had a pulse. "Where are you taking the money?" I asked steady. Sandra shrugged. "Groceries, gas, life." She put a sticker on a box of mixed screws. "You weren't here. Somebody has to keep things moving." "My dad is here," I said, tapping the folder in my tote with one finger. "He's in the ICU. His name is on the deed." "We're not doing a yard sale today." She finally lifted her face to me. Her smile flattened. "We," she repeated, like the word tasted bad. "You don't get to tell me what to do. He told me I could manage the house." Behind her, the guy with the sockets shifted, suddenly interested in the crack in the driveway. A woman with a stroller put the hammer back. Across the street, Keith paused at his mailbox and didn't wave. Sophia stood at her porch rail with a dish towel twisted between her hands. I stepped closer and picked up the drill. It was heavier than I remembered. The neon sticker said $12, like the price of a cheap pizza. I set the drill back down, opened my folder, and slid out a printed receipt from my email. The Father's Day order from last June. The model name, my card's last 4. The date. The ink was still crisp because I'd printed it last week when I organised the folder, anticipating exactly nothing and everything. "Everyone," I said, not loud but clear. "Pause." The word carried. The chatter died one conversation at a time. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. I laid the receipt on the table next to the drill and kept my hand on both like they might float away. "That's his," I said, to the group as much as to Sandra. "A gift from me to my father. None of this is for sale." Sandra laughed, but it was thin. "Sella, honestly, you're being dramatic. He said—" "I heard what you said he said," I cut in, keeping my voice even. "He also told me, if I'm out of pocket, keep the home standing." I looked to the man with the sockets. "These are not hers to sell?" He swallowed, set the box back on the table, and backed up a step. The woman with the stroller wandered toward the curb like she'd remembered an appointment. A kid on a scooter scooted away. Cash rustled in the tub when a breeze caught the bills. Sandra put her hands on her hips. The roll of stickers swung like a bracelet. Look around. I live here. I've been here since January. I cook in that kitchen. I clean this garage. I'm not stealing. I'm making space. You don't even mow the lawn. I'm not arguing housekeeping, I said. I'm telling you to stop selling my dad's property. I slid my phone out and opened the non-emergency number I'd saved after our morning at the bank. We're going to pause and get a civil standby. Don't you dare call the police on me, she said, voice dropping. You want to make a scene on his front lawn? I'm trying not to, I said. That's why I'm asking everyone to stop touching things. Sophia took one step off her porch. Maybe we all give them a minute, she said, gentle to nobody in particular. Keith nodded once, just enough for me to see it. Sandra's toes curled on the hot concrete. Go home, she said again, but she wasn't smiling now. This is my house now. It's not, I said. I kept my eyes on hers and my hand on the drill. And we're not arguing about promises in the driveway? I picked up the receipt, set it right beside the drill so the header with the store's logo faced out, and let everyone see it. Then I reached for my phone with the other hand, and without looking away from Sandra said, We're pausing. Right now. I hit the non-emergency button I'd saved and put it on speaker. Riverside Police. Non-emergency, a woman said. Hi, I said. I need a civil standby. My father is in the ICU. His girlfriend is selling his tools out of our driveway. I'm here with documentation. I want to keep the peace. She asked for the address. My name. What was happening right now. I gave her everything, eyes on Sandra and the tub of cash. Okay, she said. An officer will respond when available. I ended the call. Sandra rolled her eyes like I'd ordered a pizza. Drama. We're pausing until an officer gets here, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move my hand from the drill and the receipt. The man with the sockets looked at Sandra, then me. I'll just wait, he muttered, and set the box down. He tucked his hands in his pockets like they were dangerous. 10 minutes can stretch. People drifted. The woman with the stroller left. A teenager took a picture on his phone and pretended he hadn't. Sophia walked across the grass, slow, and pressed a folded bill into my palm without looking at me. I paid for a tape measure, she whispered. I'll make it right. Thank you, I whispered back, tucking the 20 into my tote without unfolding it. Sandra pulled her phone out and started thumbing at the screen, messages flying. You're going to regret this, Seller, she said. He needs me. He said so. I'm here because he asked me to handle the house, I said. The blue folder felt steady under my hand. I kept my eyes on the table, counting the neon stickers, like they were a pulse I could slow by noticing. A black and white pulled to the curb. Officer Jonas stepped out, tall, uniform crisp, the kind of neutral face that tells you he's going to stick to the middle. He looked from me to Sandra to the spread on the table. Morning, he said. Who called? I did, I said. I'm Seller. My dad is Joseph Hayes. He's in the ICU at Riverside Community. This is his home. Deeds in his name. I have a notarized letter authorizing me to handle the house and bills while he recovers. I lifted the blue folder and offered it. He glanced at Sandra. And you are? Sandra, she said, crossing her arms. I live here? He nodded, not writing anything yet. Okay, let's just slow down. Nobody buys or sells anything for the next few minutes. He turned to the small knot of browsers that had lingered out of curiosity. Folks, I'm going to ask you to step back from the table and give these two some room. Keith put his hands up in a peace gesture and backed away. The teen with the phone disappeared like smoke. The man with the sockets set them a little closer to me than to Sandra. Officer Jonas took the folder from me and flipped through. He didn't linger on any single page, but he saw each one, the notarized letter on bank letterhead, the copy of the deed with Dad's name, the utility account authorizations, the printed receipt for the red drill. You said your father is in the ICU, he asked. Yes, I said. He told me, before surgery, to keep the home standing. I'm not trying to fight in the driveway. I want to stop the sale, account for the cash, and secure the house. Sandra blew out a breath. He told me I could handle stuff. He doesn't like clutter. I'm decluttering. If she cared so much, she'd be here more. I'm not here to pick sides, Officer Jonas said, tone even. I'm here to keep the peace and document what's happening. Right now, it looks like property belonging to Joseph is being sold while he's incapacitated. That's a civil issue we want to de-escalate. He handed the folder back to me. Let's pause the sale. Nothing leaves the property today? He looked at the tub of cash. Who has collected money so far? Sandra's chin lifted. Me. We'll count it together in a bit, he said. He turned to me. Do you have anything else that shows what's normally here? I slid my phone open and scrolled to photos. Garage layout, I said, showing him the wall with wrenches, the drill on its hook. Then I flipped to Facebook Marketplace and pulled up a listing with our driveway in the background. Tool blowout, today only. I screenshotted it, the timestamp stamped, then shot the link to my own email while he watched. These are from this morning, I said. He nodded. I'll note that. Ma'am, he said to Sandra, for now I'm asking you to stop the sale and allow items to be returned to where they were. Keith stepped forward without being asked, and quietly set the sockets on the table, then on second thought carried them to the garage wall where the empty hook waited. Sophia picked up the tape measure she'd tried to buy and placed it on the shelf. The two strangers, who had hung back, exchanged a look and slipped away. Sandra stared at me like she could set me on fire with her eyes. You don't get to march in and... I'm not marching, I said. I'm putting things back until my dad can decide what happens to his own tools. Officer Jonas looked at me again. Do you have a plan to secure the house? Yes, I said. I glanced at the front door. The deadbolt was old brass, sticky when it rained. I pulled my phone up and scrolled to my contacts. I'd saved a locksmith last fall when I rekeyed my apartment. Angel, mobile service, fair prices. I tapped the name to open the number. Sandra crossed her arms tighter. You can't change the lock, she said. I met her eyes and let the phone ring in my ear. Angel picked up on the second ring. Angel Salazar, mobile locksmith. Hi, Angel, it's Sella, I said. You rekeyed my apartment last fall? I need a rekey at my dad's house. He's in the ICU. I have his deed and a notarized authorization. There's an officer here. He didn't hesitate. Text me the address. I'm 10 minutes out if traffic cooperates. I texted him, then said to Officer Jonas, he's on his way. Good, the officer said. He looked at Sandra. While we wait, no more sales. Let's start gathering things back into the garage. Keith took that as a cue and lifted a milk crate of screwdrivers. Where do these live? He asked me. Second shelf, left side, I said, and he nodded, like he already knew. Sophia came over and started peeling stickers off extension cords, rolling them neat. The man who'd wanted the sockets hovered, then asked, Mind if I help put these back? Thank you, I said. Hook on the right? Sandra stood by the garage door, arms crossed, watching people undo her mourning. This is ridiculous, she muttered. I didn't engage. I walked the table, picking up tools, matching them to the photos on my phone. Wrenches graduated left to right, bits in the blue box. The red drill on its hook, not on a table with a price tag. A white van pulled up 12 minutes later, angled behind the black and white. Angel hopped out in a navy shirt with his name stitched over the pocket. He gave the officer a nod, then looked to me. Seller. I handed him the folder open to the notarized letter and the deed copy. Owner is Joseph Hayes, I said. I'm authorized to handle the house. He's hospitalized. I want to rekey the front door and the back door deadbolt. I'm not trying to lock anyone out of their belongings. We're going to set times for access. Angel scanned the papers, glanced at the officer. You good with this? I'm here to keep the peace, Jonas said. She's presenting documents. I'm documenting the situation. Angel took a photo of the letter with his work phone, then the deed, then my driver's license. Paper trail, he said. Okay, let's do it. Sandra let out a loud sigh. Unbelievable. Angel worked fast, a tray of pins balanced on his palm, tiny springs clicking as he pulled the old cylinder. It took him 15 minutes to rekey the front and another 10 for the back. He handed me 3 new keys and a receipt on carbon paper. $145 for 2 cylinders, he said. Card okay? I tapped my card on his reader. Sandra clenched her old key in her fist, so tight her knuckles went white. Angel held out the removed cylinder to me like a trophy, and I shook my head. Toss it, I said. He dropped it into his parts bin. The old key in Sandra's fist had just turned into a piece of scrap metal. Officer Jonas looked at Sandra. Ma'am, for now, you'll coordinate access with Sella. I recommend you both pick times, and if either of you want to stand by, call us. She didn't answer him. She watched me like I was poking at a bruise. I turned to the table. Let's count the cash, I said. We set the plastic tub on the hood of my car where everyone could see. I counted out loud, slow. 1s and 5s, a couple of 10s, a 20 pasted flat from humidity. 260 even, I said. I pulled a yellow pad from my tote and wrote a simple receipt. Cash collected from driveway sale at 9:30 a.m., held for Joseph Hayes pending his decision. I signed it and slid it towards Sandra. I'm not signing that, she said. You don't have to, I said. I am. I put the cash into a plain envelope and wrote, held for Joseph Hayes, 260 with today's date and time. Then I sealed it, pressed the flap with my palm, and tucked it into my tote. Sandra huffed, like the air in her had run out. You're locking me out, she said, when I snapped a small padlock through the toolbox handle. The lock clicked clean. I'm locking Dad's things up, I said. Your belongings are not locked. We'll set times for you to pack. Keith rolled the empty table back toward the garage. Where do you want this? He asked. Against the far wall, I said. He folded the legs and leaned it where the table usually lived during holidays. Sophia handed me a stack of stickers she'd peeled off and balled up. Trash? She asked. Please, I said. We took photos as we went. The wall filled back in. Wrenches, bits, the cherry red drill aligned on its hook. I held my phone up and matched angles to the shots I'd taken before. The garage started to look like my dad's again. Angel finished and handed me an extra key in a little white envelope. Keep that separate, he said. You've got my number. Thank you, I said. I tucked 2 keys into my pocket and the extra into the blue folder. Inside the kitchen, the clock over the stove read 10:28. Visiting hours were starting. I opened the cabinet above the coffee maker, taped the cash envelope inside the door at eye level, and wrote the date and Sella under it with a black Sharpie. Sandra stood in the doorway, watching every pen stroke. You're making this ugly, she said. Quiet now. I'm making it clear, I said. I closed the cabinet gently. There's water in the fridge. We can talk times after I get back from the hospital. Officer Jonas gave me an incident number on a small card. If either of you need another standby, call. Document everything. I will, I said. On the way out, I checked the back deadbolt, then the front. The new key turned smooth as butter. I slipped it back into my pocket and felt the shape of my boundaries settle with it. I drove straight back to the hospital. Visiting hours had started. Dad slept, the ventilator steady, his eyebrows relaxed in a way I hardly ever see. I told the nurse I'd been by the house and that I'd be back later. I didn't say why. I squeezed his hand and said, I'm keeping it standing, because I promised. By noon, I was in my car again, with the AC blasting. I ate half the blueberry muffin at a red light and called Leah. She answered on her lunch break, the clatter of a break room behind her. Tell me, she said. He's stable, I said. Sedated. I stopped a yard sale. Sandra had set up a table and was selling his tools. Silence. Then that long inhale she does when she's trying not to scream. Are you kidding me? I called a civil standby. Officer Jonas came. We paused it. I rekeyed the doors with a locksmith. I counted the cash, 260, and sealed it. Everything's back inside. Leah exhaled into the phone. You're a machine. I'm fine, I said. I'm going to post a written notice this afternoon. 7 days to move her things. I'll offer a storage unit and set times with standbys. Do I need to drive there? Not yet, I said. I'll call if I do. After we hung up, I stopped by a storage place on Van Buren with rows of small orange doors. The woman at the desk had the exact pen on a string you'd expect. I rented a 5x5 in my name for 1 month, prepaid, and added Sandra as an authorized user. I'll use my lock, I said, and bought a new combination lock so I wouldn't have to hand over a key. The clerk wrote the gate code and unit number on a business card and slid it to me. I took a photo of the card in case anything got lost between pockets. Back at Dad's, the street was calm. The garage door was closed. The new keys turned smooth. I typed up a simple notice at his kitchen table. Date, my name, his name, the address. Permission to occupy is withdrawn effective today. You have 7 days to remove your personal belongings. I will provide a prepaid storage unit for your things. Items belonging to Joseph are not to be removed. Access will be scheduled with civil standbys. I added the incident number Officer Jonas had given me and a line that said, if you need a standby, call non-emergency. It wasn't an eviction notice. I wasn't pretending it was. It was clear, not fancy. I printed 2 copies at Dad's desk. I taped one in a clear sheet protector to the front door at eye level and slid the other under her bedroom door, then texted Sandra a photo of the posted notice with the timestamp. I sent a second text. Storage unit reserved at Van Buren Storage, Unit 2145, gate code, Dan Garstal. I will meet you there with the lock when you're ready to load. I'll cover month 1. Her reply landed before I even set the phone down. You're cruel, I typed back. Your things will be stored and safe. I'll be at the house today at 4 p.m. with Officer Jonas for access. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. also available. 3 dots, then. Fine. I'll leave with my dignity. Another. You'll be sorry. I didn't reply to that. I kept it to dates and times. I sent the gate code and the unit number again, plus a photo of the business card so there'd be no mix-ups. Then I took the trash bag of peeled stickers Sophia had left and tied it off. Sophia texted while I was wiping the kitchen counter. I'll keep an eye, she wrote. If I see trucks or strange cars, I'll call you. A minute later, Keith texted too, a photo of 2 empty boxes in his hands. If you want me to help box the yard sale leftovers, I'm around this afternoon. Thank you, I wrote to both. Stand by at 4. If it keeps the peace, I'll take it. I drove to the post office next. I didn't try to change a lock on a curbside box. It isn't mine to change. I put a hold on Dad's mail for 30 days and added my name as an authorized agent on the PS form 3801 so I could pick it up at the counter. I set up informed delivery on my phone so I could see what was supposed to arrive. We'll keep it at the station, the clerk said. Pickups between 9 and 5. I thanked her, wrote the confirmation number in my notebook, and texted Leah a photo of that too. At 3:45, I parked at Dad's again. Officer Jonas rolled up right at 4. Same calm face, same notepad. We doing access, he asked. Yes, I said. 7 days written notices posted. I've offered storage. We'll just keep it simple. Sandra pulled in 5 minutes after, hair up, jaw set. She walked to the front door, read the notice like it was in another language, and unlocked her eyes from it with effort. 7 days, she said. Yes, I said. I'll meet you at the storage unit after you load your car. She swept past me to her room. I stayed in the hall where I could see the front door and the path from her room to it. Keith showed up with his boxes, said nothing, and set them by the doorway. Sandra filled 2 with clothes and shoes, 1 with bathroom stuff. When she tried to slide Dad's framed photo from the hall into a box with her towels, I shook my head and pointed to the wall. That stays. She put it back, eyes on mine for a beat. Then she kept packing. At 5:30 we caravanned to the storage facility. I opened the gate with the code and handed her the brand new lock. combo is on this card, I said. I'll text it too. She stacked the boxes inside, slammed the door, and spun the numbers. Back at the house, I locked up the garage and checked the taped envelope in the cabinet. Still there. Still sealed. I took a photo and sent it to myself like I was sending it to the future. At 9 p.m, my phone lit up on my coffee table. Sandra. I'm taking what I deserve. I took a breath, opened my notes app, and wrote the time next to her words. Then I set the phone face down and let the quiet hold. The next morning at 9:55, I was in Dad's driveway again with my blue folder and a roll of packing tape. Officer Jonas parked at 4 on the dot, like we'd agreed. He gave me a nod. Same deal, he said. Same deal, I said. Access and peace. Sandra arrived with flattened boxes and a face carved out of stone. She didn't look at me when she walked past. I stood in the hall where I could see both her doorway and the front door. Jonas stayed by the entry, neutral and present. I'll box my things, Sandra said to the air. You can relax. I am relaxed, I said. Bathroom, your closet, your dresser. Kitchen. Only what you brought. She filled 2 boxes with clothes, one with shoes, one with hair tools and makeup bags. When she came out holding Dad's framed fishing photo tucked under a towel, I pointed to the wall. That stays. She slid it back onto the nail, jaw set. He said I could have that one, she said. I'm not arguing promises, I said. I'm protecting his home. Her voice softened for half a second. You don't know what he promised me. Jonas cleared his throat gently. Let's keep moving. We loaded her car, then drove to the storage facility. I unlocked the unit, handed her the combo again, and stepped back. She stacked boxes, shut the door, spun the numbers. No small talk. Back at the house, I checked the cabinet. The taped envelope was still exactly where I'd left it. I took a photo with the stove clock in the frame and emailed it to myself. Day 3, 10 a.m. Same plan. I laid a yellow legal pad on the kitchen counter and wrote inventory across the top with 2 columns, Sandra's and Joseph's. Every time she filled a box, I asked, "What's in there?" She listed jeans, sweaters, towels. I wrote it down. It wasn't a legal document. It was something to point to when memories got creative. She tried to slide Dad's records into a tote, Coltrane, a Muddy Waters reissue he'd hunted down at a swap. Those are his, I said, tapping the list. They're on the den shelf inventory. She laughed, but it came out brittle. He played them for me. He said they were ours. Not today, I said. I pulled the records back and slid them onto the shelf. Sophia drifted in the open doorway with a roll of painter's tape and a Sharpie. Labels? She offered. Perfect, I said. She stuck blue tape on the tote. Kitchen, Sandra. She made a second label and quietly slapped it on the record shelf. Joseph, records. I didn't ask her to. I didn't need to. It helped. Keith appeared with 2 more boxes and a pair of work gloves tucked in his back pocket. If it keeps the peace, he said to Jonas, who nodded without looking up from his notepad. Sandra's tone kept changing stations, soft when she asked Keith to hand her a box, sharp when I said no to the framed pictures in the hallway, soft again when she stood in the kitchen turning a mug in her hand. He liked coffee in this, she said. That's his, I said, and wrote, mug, Joseph on the pad. She set it down like it had burned her. She took a break on the porch, phone lit up with a rapid scroll of messages. I topped off my water at the sink and texted Leah. Day 3. Slow? Steady? Leah sent back a muscle emoji and a heart. I didn't know what to do with the softness of that, so I stuck my phone face down and went back to the list. At noon, Sandra returned to the kitchen with a big canvas tote slung over her shoulder. We started a new box, pantry items. She scooped spices and a bag of rice into it. I taped the top and wrote, Pantry, Sandra. She tugged her tote higher, the strap catching on the chair. As I reached for the tape, the tote tipped and something heavy clinked inside the outer pocket. A flash of brushed steel. I set the tape down, slid 2 fingers into the pocket, and pulled out my dad's old watch. the one he wore to every Saturday hardware store run, the one with the scratched crystal and the tan leather band that fits his wrist and nobody else's. I didn't say anything at first. I turned it in my hand and felt its weight settle. The kitchen got very quiet. Jonas shifted his stance by the door, but didn't move closer. Sophia, halfway onto the porch, froze. I lifted my eyes to Sandra's. "This stays," I said. I set the watch on the counter, centered on the yellow pad, and put my palm beside it like a guardrail. Her mouth opened like she was going to fight. Then she looked away first. "I forgot it was in there," she said, voice small. "Okay," I said. I wrote, "Joseph, watch," on the pad and slid the watch 2 inches back from the edge. She swallowed. He said, "We're not doing that," I said, same tone I'd used all week. "Your things will be stored and safe." We finished the hour without another attempt. She loaded her car and left for the storage unit, dust storm rising under her tyres. Keith picked up the empty boxes by the door. "You want me here tomorrow?" he asked. "Yes," I said. 10 again. "Thank you." Sophia pointed to the envelope taped in the cabinet. "Still there?" "Still there," I said. I closed the door and clicked the deadbolt twice. I drove to the hospital, told Dad about the neighbours, about the lists. I didn't mention the watch. I just held his hand and said, "It's standing." He didn't wake, but his fingers twitched, like they knew. Day 5, I got there early. The standby was set for 9. I pulled up at 8:50 with my blue folder and a fresh roll of tape. The air already had heat in it. The garage door stayed closed until the officer arrived. I wasn't giving anyone a head start. Sandra was already parked at the curb, trunk yawning open, back seat stacked to the headrests. She wore sunglasses and moved fast, like speed would settle something. She didn't say good morning. She looked past me at the garage. Officer Jonas rolled in at 8:59. Same calm nod, same notepad. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I said. I unlocked the front door with the new key, checked the cabinet, envelope still taped, still sealed, and then opened the garage from inside. The smell of oil and cut wood met us. The wall looked like the photos on my phone, wrenches in their row, bits in the blue box, the red drill on its hook. Sandra headed for the toolbox like it was a finish line. She tugged on the small padlock through the handle, found it still solid, and huffed. Then she pivoted to the wall. I was already there. I put a hand on the drill and matched her eyes. "No," I said. "It was a gift to the house," she said. He said, "We're not doing that," I said. "It stays." Jonas didn't say a word. He stood where he could see both of us and the driveway. We did the same slow dance we'd done all week. Boxes from her room, bathroom, pantry. I wrote items on my legal pad. Sophia stood on her porch like a quiet lighthouse. Keith rolled his trash bin to the curb and left it there, halfway between his driveway and ours. Half an hour in, Sandra took a box to her trunk and didn't come right back. I finished taping a lid and walked out to check the path. The trunk was propped wide. A folded blanket lay over a stack of boxes and laundry bags, corners of fabric tucked like she cared about the presentation. Under the edge of the blanket, a bright red curve peeked out. I didn't reach right away. I looked at Jonas. He looked at the trunk, then at me, then at Sandra, who was halfway down the walk with another box. "Let's keep it calm," he said. "Just address it." I lifted the blanket. The red drill sat wedged between a coat and a pillow. I reached in, pulled it free and held it up in the morning light. The street quieted. Keith froze halfway to his bin. Sophia stepped 1 foot down onto her top stair. "This was a gift to my father," I said, voice steady. "It's not yours to sell or take." Sandra stopped 2 steps from the trunk, hands empty. She had a line on her face like she'd slept on a seam. She opened her mouth and closed it again. "It's just a drill," she said, but it didn't have any air in it. "It's his," I said. I walked it back to the garage and slid it onto its hook. The click of metal on metal sounded louder than it should have. She let out a sound that was almost a laugh and almost a sob. "You're impossible." "I'm consistent," I said. Jonas checked the time on his watch and then glanced at me. "Paperwork still the same?" he asked. "Same," I said, and tapped the folder on the workbench. He flipped it open, more out of habit than suspicion, scanned the notarized letter and the deed, then closed it. He nodded once, like marking a box on a list. Sandra loaded the last 2 boxes without talking. She took one more lap through the house, slow, eyes touching what was left, the den shelf with records, the mug on the counter, the photos in the hallway, the envelope taped inside the cabinet. She didn't reach for anything. She walked back to the porch, dug into her tote, and pulled out the old brass key with the purple rubber cap, the one that wouldn't turn in our locks anymore. She set it on the porch rail like an offering. "I'll come back for the rest," she said to the rail, not to me. "You have 2 days left," I said. "Text me to set times. I'll have standbys." She nodded once, sharp, like a decision made to no one. She got in her car, shut the door, and sat with her hands on the wheel for a full 10 seconds. Then she started the engine. Jonas stepped off the curb and gave a small wave to no one and everyone, Sophia, Keith, the street. He didn't have anything else to say. Neither did I. Sandra's tail lights washed the sycamore trunks red as she rolled away. She didn't squeal the tires. She didn't look back. When her tail lights disappeared, the house felt like it finally exhaled. I put the old key from the rail into a zip bag and wrote "Old Sandra's copy" with the date. I hung the bag on a small nail inside the hall closet where I keep spare batteries. I took one more photo of the garage wall with the drill on its hook and emailed it to myself with the subject line, Day 5, 10:43 a.m. Keith dragged his bin back up the driveway and paused at the edge of the lawn. "You good?" he asked. "I'm okay," I said. Sophia crossed to the sidewalk. "Text if you need me later," she said. "I will," I said. "Thank you." Jonas handed me another small card. "Same incident number," he said. "Call if you want to stand by for the last day." "Tomorrow at 10, I said. "I'll call it in." He tipped his head, got in his car and pulled away. I locked the front door and the back, checked the cabinet one more time. The envelope was still there, still sealed. The house settled. I checked my watch and headed for the hospital. Dad liked order. I could give him that. Day 6 came and went without a text. I sat in the driveway at 10 with my blue folder and a bottle of water. Nobody showed. I took a photo of the front door with the posted notice and the stove clock through the window and sent it to myself. Day 7, I called in a short standby. Jonas met me at 10. We walked the house together, and I boxed the last stray things from Sandra's room, 2 sweaters in the closet corner, a curling iron under the bed, 3 bottles from the shower. I wrote them on the inventory, sealed the box, and drove it to the unit. I took a photo of it inside, texted Sandra the picture with the combo again, and wrote, "Notice period ends today at 5. Your items are in unit 21 on 45. I'll keep the unit through the month we paid." She replied an hour later, "I'll get them this week. I won't come back to the house." I screenshotted it and slid my phone back in my pocket. The house stayed quiet. 2 weeks after the driveway morning, I brought my dad home. The hospital sent him out in a wheelchair. Then a nurse helped him into my car with a practiced pivot. A folded walker rode in the back seat. He dozed on the drive, thin mint-coloured blanket over his knees, the kind they give everyone. When we pulled up under the sycamores, Keith was out front trimming a hedge. He lifted his chin. Sophia waved from her porch with a dish towel in her hand. "Home," I said, easing Dad up the walkway. The new deadbolt turned like butter. The walker bumped over the threshold he'd built himself. He stood in the entry and just breathed for a second, eyes wet in a way I've seen maybe twice in my life. "You want water?" I asked. "Garage," he said, voice a little gravel but clear. "Then water?" I opened the interior door and stood back. He walked slow, careful with each foot, and stopped at the pegboard like he'd stepped into a photograph. Wrenches graduated left to right, bits in the blue box. The cherry red drill aligned on its hook, neon sticker long gone. His eyes traced everything, like reading a familiar page. "You kept it standing," he said, not looking away. It came out rough and warm. He reached for the drill and just rested his fingers on the handle. "Good girl," he added, which I haven't been in years, but it landed right anyway. We made tea at the kitchen table, his mug on its coaster, steam fogging his glasses a little. I slid the yellow legal pad across to him, the inventory with neat columns, and then the envelope I'd taped inside the cabinet. I wrote untaped 2:12 p.m. on the back as I pulled it down. "Cash from the driveway," I said. 260, counted in front of the officer and Sandra. "Receipt is in the folder." He thumbed the sealed flap like it was a relic, then broke it and counted slow. "Honest money," he said, putting the bills back. He pushed the envelope to the centre of the table and tapped it once with his finger. "Put it in the safe box." "I will," I said. "A mail's on hold at the post office. I'll pick it up tomorrow. Utilities are auto-paid for the month." I turned the thermostat back to 74. He nodded, absorbing facts like screws laid out on a towel. He looked at the front door. "Locks feel different?" "They are," I said. "I rekeyed them the day of the sale. Angel did it with a patrol officer present. I've got 3 keys, one for you, one for me, and one in the folder for emergencies." I set his key on the table by his hand. He slid it into his pocket like a coin. We talked rules, simple and not unkind. No keys to anyone who doesn't share a bill. Any future sleepovers on paper. If he dates again, we keep it slow and keep his name alone on anything official. He didn't argue. He took a sip of tea and said, "I like company, but I like my tools more," which was as close as he'll get to an apology for letting Sandra fill in the empty spots. "Sandra emptied the storage unit?" he asked after a beat. "Yesterday," I said. She texted a photo of it cleared out and wrote, "I'm done." I closed the door and spun the combo for the last time. "The lock's in my bag. We'll let the month run and then I'll cancel it." He nodded once. "Good." Sophia knocked and cracked the door. "Just welcoming him home?" she said, holding banana bread in foil. Keith hovered behind her with a small potted fern he'd split from his own. Dad grinned the way he does when someone hands him a tool belt at Christmas. "You two kept things tidy," he said. "Thank you." "Just being neighbours," Keith said, placing the fern on the counter. "Call if you need a hand," Sophia added, eyes flicking to the blue folder by the bread. She saw it, and I let her. After they left, Dad dozed in his chair with a baseball game, murmuring low. I washed the 2 mugs, dried them, and put his on its hook. I locked up the garage, checked the cabinet where the envelope had been, and slid the receipt behind the sugar jar. I took the cash to the safe deposit box on the way home, texted Leah a photo of Dad in his chair with the fern in the background, and wrote, "Standing." She sent a string of hearts and a "call me later." I smiled without thinking and slid my phone into my tote with the folder. Before I left, we did one more small ritual. I stood by the door holding 2 keys. "Spare stays with me," I said. "Spare stays with you," he repeated, like a password. I locked the deadbolt, closed the door behind me, and felt the weight of the key settle in my pocket. On the porch, the sycamores rattled like a quiet applause. I waved at Sophia without calling attention to it, got in my car and drove home the same 20 minutes I always do. No sirens, no speeches. Just a house that still knew my dad, a garage wall lined up the way he taught me, and a set of boundaries that didn't creak when I leaned on them.